Mental Health Awareness Month in the month of May. I got to ask the question. How you feeling, man?
Today, to be honest, today was a little off. Past 2 days have been a little off.
Okay.
I don't know if it's because of the gloomy weather. Could be coronavirus. Could be, I feel like there's a laundry list of things. But I think, I would say I'm like a 7 out of 10. And the reason why I'm like not like lower than that, I'm here. I'm in the Backpocket house. So this is the highlight of my day for sure.
Hey, there you go, man. What do you think of the studio? Was this have you seen this online and stuff?
Yeah,
Were you
I was
ready?
telling him I saw the build out and I also saw like what it used to be too. So it's got to be cool for you guys to see. Literally as you're growing, you're like you're upping production. And I think it's really cool too. People like when you start from zero and they like the come up. Like I appreciate it, and I know that people in my life, they talk about it all the time with like, because I'm in the startup space, so like people like the vulnerability and they like the authenticity, and they don't necessarily need this crazy like Joe Rogan production like yet, but like you guys are getting there. You got a producer.
We got Marcus.
Yeah.
Yes. He's our Jamie.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, Jamie.
Yeah. No, we did some research on you. We know that you're also I don't know if Joe Rogan has a political party or just has a cult following, but we'll call them the Joe Roganists.
Yeah.
We hear that you're a Joe Roganist as well.
I'm a Joe Roganist. I'm kind of I joke with my buddies that if I were to run for anything, it would be the people need to chill party. That's like kind of where I stand. I'm like, I grew up in like an entrepreneur family, so like my dad's super libertarian, and I kind of always grew up with the, everyone kind of mind your own business, let people do whatever they want, type of thing. And now recently, in the past couple of years, especially since Trump got in office, I have just stepped fully into this, like, be a critical thinker, be someone who just, I don't even care if you're a Democrat, Republican. First of all, I think that system is archaic, but also like, it's more important to me that like I would rather just have a good discussion with people about issues and ideas. Like I don't take the emotion out of it. Like that's just boring to me. It's like too shallow. So like Joe Rogan is appealing to me because the dude is like represents the common man in like every single way possible. Like, and he even like admits like when he has no idea what he's talking about. But he like, I love him because he has people on that are like all over the spectrum, and like he had Bernie Sanders on, which was awesome. And he's had people on the right, people on the left, people in between, and I think I really appreciate that in people. I like when people are able to like put aside their own biases and just like sit down with anybody and talk. So yeah, big Joe Rogan guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's awesome at having conversations with people that are light years ahead of him intellectually.
Yes.
Just by being genuinely curious about Neil deGrasse Tyson or Yuval Noah Harari, like whoever's sitting across from him, he's diving into whatever they're talking about and being present. So we like listen to it like we're taking notes, if you will, just like, all right, really his best attribute is he is, like I said, curious, and he knows that he doesn't know the answer. So he's going to ask the question instead of act like he knows the answer and try to meet the other person intellectually.
For sure. Yeah.
So
There's so many times on that. And it's great because like sometimes when I'm working, I'll throw it on because some of the episodes are like super long. Mm-hmm. So often like it's usually when I go for a walk, which I try to do every day. Especially now. I don't know if you guys have had conversations with people about walks, but walks have now become like the mecca of things. So I think, I just kind of passively listen to it, but like there's these moments where he'll ask the question and it's like, damn, that's a great question. Like I totally would have asked that. Like you feel like you're in the room with that person, which is nice.
Yeah, I think that's a lot to do with the nature of a podcast. Like we try and create that environment as well,
Yeah.
Not only is our studio in our house, but we want the listener to feel like they're right there next to you on the couch in the conversation with us. And I really do appreciate the relatability aspect that even though he is, an all-time great comic, he's, this millionaire guy who could easily have a much, much higher ego, but he's able to bring himself down to, like you said before, the common man and that's something that Andrew and I have been, on that path towards as well, with, displaying this podcast for the average person and focusing on what the average really means. And, I see it in Joe Rogan a lot. I see it in Barstool with, sports by the common man for the common man was their original tagline. I've been watching their documentary, and it's just like so much fuel to like how much that relatability aspect really does play into that, just kind of your brand almost.
Mm-hmm.
It's been fun, man. But you mentioned the come up a little bit. I'd love to know a little bit about you, and your come up. Where did you grow up, and where'd you go to school and all that?
Yeah, so I'm originally adopted from Paraguay.
Oh,
and
okay. Geographically, where is Paraguay?
Take a guess.
Fuck.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. So Paraguay is in South America, and
I'm glad I didn't answer, dude.
now I'm curious what you're gonna say.
I was gonna say like Southern Europe. I don't know, kind of like
my head went
Turkey
Portugal.
Portugal, the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Paraguay's South America.
Yeah. So it's like
Got it.
landlocked. It's kind of like underneath Brazil a little bit, and in between Argentina. But yeah, I was adopted when I was just a little baby. So like everyone always asked me like, "Oh, how's your Spanish?" And it was garbage. I mean, my Spanish is like the extent of like school Spanish, which everybody.
Yeah. Spanish 100 through 300
everybody,
in college.
Yeah, everybody kind of jokes around in those classes. So yeah, came to Minnesota, the best family ever. And like Minnesota of all places, like super chill, Minnesota nice. Like of all the places I could have went, I'm very lucky. And so I grew up in Plymouth, Minnesota.
Yep.
And then I went to Breck my whole life. Are you guys from Minnesota?
We are not.
No.
Okay.
I'm a Chicago kid. He's Denver.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So Breck is in Golden Valley, so not too far away. And it's like a college prep school. And so I went there my whole life. And then from there, went to the U of M because I kind of wanted a change of scenery, if you will. I mean, Breck, my graduating class was like 115.
Okay.
Small school.
So small. And then the U of M is obviously massive. So I wanted to like, try a different change of scenery. So I went to the U of M and dabbled around in some different things there. I was like what degree? Oh yeah. So are you guys familiar with the Carlson School?
Yes.
So
Marcus is. Are you at the Carlson School? No.
So
No, I'm not at the Carlson School.
Okay.
Ty Webb is.
Ty Webb.
Yeah.
Other
Other producer.
So my dad got his MBA from Carlson like way back in the day, and Carlson, like coming out of high school, I was like, I'm gonna go to Carlson. I want to go to business school. I love that stuff, and didn't get in, but then got into the liberal arts school, which is like the basic kind of general thing. And when I was a freshman, I was like, okay, well, I could probably still. There's a lot of people that transfer in after you get into the U, even if you don't get into Carlson right away. And I honestly was like, okay, should I try this? Like, do I really want to go to Carlson? And the more I looked into it, I figured out that you had to take calc, and that was not me. I'm not a calc guy. So I was like, okay, let's not take calc, and let's figure out how to basically replicate the same education, but not do it in Carlson. And so the U of M has this, I think it's called the College of Education and Human Development. So it's like the education school, but that school had like a ton of like business and like real life, like sales training type of stuff, coursework. And so like I started taking, and then like you can take like Carlson classes. So like I took entrepreneurship, like a ton of those classes, and different, like I took a finance class and a lot of business classes I still was able to take somehow. And so I ended up putting together basically like this business and marketing degree that ended up being, in my eyes, a better experience for me because, for example, like one of the classes that you take on the different route I took was like this sales training class. And that class was not taught by this like seasoned academic. It was taught by like a real estate investor and a guy who's been around the block and like knows sales. And so like I found that a lot of the professors were like real world business people or like executives at companies or just like had like real world stuff. Whereas like some of the classes I took in like Carlson were very academic and like by the book, textbook, all that type of thing. And if I've learned anything in business, it's like that's not how it goes. So yeah, I ended up having a great experience, and it's funny being in a house like this because I lived in a 12-bedroom house with 12 guys.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't a fraternity, but it was just like classic college.
It was damn
vibes.
close.
Didn't have as many couches as you guys, but
Oh, for real?
we had some.
You had 12 guys in the house and you didn't have 7 couches?
No, it was bizarre. It was like the house was literally just rooms, just all rooms. There wasn't a ton of common space. But yeah, that was a wild thing. There was 3 bedrooms on the 3rd floor. So like lucky for me, like I was on the 3rd floor and there was like an escape staircase, so like I didn't ever have to go through the house. Like my mom like refused to even visit me at the house because it was disgusting.
Right.
But so yeah, I mean I feel kind of back at home, to be honest. Yours is way cleaner than mine was, for sure.
Hey, we'll take that.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually, so the funny story is when we paneled this room, we didn't tell our landlord, and kind of a risk, and we didn't even get the lease extension for this upcoming year at the time when we built it. So it was actually a very big risk. Now that I'm unpacking it in my head right now, or verbally, but it was funny. So when quarantine first started, we just did a quarantine podcast with all 5 roommates, and we went for like 3 hours, just kind of got drunk and talked about life and quarantine and the things that we could all improve on as roommates.
Yes. Nice.
And the single like our YouTube page, we're almost actually to 200 subscribers, so if you're listening, please subscribe to get us there. But we don't, like, usually it's anywhere from like 30 to 100 views per podcast and a couple comments, and one single comment on the quarantine with our roommates podcast was our landlord, and we didn't know it was him until we put the dots together because we get his mail every once in a while, and Andrew matched the name of the mail we've been getting with the guy who's commenting on our YouTube page.
And we've lived here for 2 years and haven't had to report to the landlord because there's a property manager who we speak to.
That we see once a year, maybe.
Right, to do a couple repairs and whatnot. So I like put 2 and 2 together. Look, the comment was like, I see that the Declan may have broken the washer and
the oven.
And Matt Heron, I'd like you to start paying the water bill. And Declan, you might want to turn off the oven because that's why it's probably broken. But killer podcast, guys. Keep up the great work. So
didn't even say anything about that.
Didn't even say anything. He definitely saw it and was like, all right, 2 thumbs up. Like, now this room looks a little bit more built out. But
I mean, I'm sure he loves it. Yeah. It's like, oh, this looks way better.
So we officially got the sign of approval.
Nice.
Out of nowhere.
Out of left field.
Which is hilarious. Yeah. But
hey, ask for forgiveness. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So you're living in that house. Would you say you were like are you more of an extroverted person or more introverted?
No.
Like, okay.
I'm definitely an introvert. But like, so are you guys Myers-Briggs guys?
I am, through the business courses I took.
So I'm an INFJ, which I've been told is super rare for men, but also it's like the least introverted of the I's. I'm like a extroverted introvert, or however that combo works. I love like these conversations, but I get drained by like the bar scene or being at like a networking event for too long, or like just like where there's too many humans in a room. Like I physically get drained by that. And so yeah, being in the house, I was, like I said, lucky to be on the 3rd floor because like it was like only 3 bedrooms, then the rest of the rooms were in the lower parts of the house, so like I got to just come and go and like choose when I want to interact with humans. And then since college I've lived alone, so it's been nice because like I'll go, well, not anymore, but like we work out of WeWork, and so that's obviously a lot of people, but like I can kind of choose now if I want to escape and go home and like just chill, I can do that. I think having 12 roommates in college, like you kind of check the box of like, all right, I'm good. I don't need roommates anymore for the rest of my life.
Kind of like dorm life too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So now that you have gone obviously through college and had taken this unique course, didn't necessarily go business, but had a pseudo business marketing degree,
kind of like an entrepreneur mind behind your degree, which is kind of cool.
Had to be creative. Yeah.
Had to be creative.
Exactly. So like knowing that, would you going back now in this current day, would you still go to college, or would you try and outsource it or do something online or YouTube or Skillshare or whatever? Like, would you take something of a route like that, or would you go back and go into college?
It's the $1 million question, or $500,000 or whatever the debt is now. For but I think
the 6-figure question.
Yeah, the 6-figure question. I think honestly, it all comes down to what I'd want to do, and I think for what I want to do, I wouldn't. I had an amazing experience, but that was not really because of the academics as much as like the people that I met, and just the U of M was just an amazing spot. Like my high school, like almost everybody went out of state, and I was like, you know what? I was a Gopher fan my whole life. Like I went to hockey games since I was a little kid. And so like my college experience, like I would not trade it for anything. It was great. That being said, if that like can exist over here separately, purely academically, like I honestly wouldn't. I think the best thing that you could do as like a high school grad would be to, and like I always have this conversation with people. I'm like a big visionary, so like I always ask people, and like I'm sure I'll ask you guys at some point tonight, like what your end game is, because if your end game like is to be in business or to be an entrepreneur or to work for a startup in a certain industry, or even like if it's like you want to be a photographer for massive brands or something, it's like the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And so it's like graduate high school and then go, I mean, Gary Vee talks about it all the time, but like go work for someone for free, or like go directly to the source. So like if I want to be in the startup space, go work for a startup for free. And like now being on the other side of that, and now even bringing on new team members like we are for Activ, like I much more value someone who has good experience or like experiential wisdom than like a degree. Like a degree, and like even like we've asked people in interviews, like we just brought on an account manager, and like I asked her, I think, about her college like degree, but it was more so to hear about her experience than like experience as in like did you have fun and like did you meet friends and all that, versus like I'm going to judge you because of this degree, you know? So right, I think the way the world is going, and especially if you look at ROI, there's a massive arbitrage for online learning. First of all, YouTube is free. Second of all, Skillshare and some of that stuff is so nominal compared to the 6-figure thing. So it's like if you're looking at it purely from a number standpoint and an ROI, which everyone should, I just don't think it's a good, unless you're going to like, again, being a surgeon or whatever, everyone always lists
engineer,
the names.
medical, yeah.
Then of course do it. But yeah. But again, I'm one person in here. Other people might have different opinions, but
yeah. Well, the reason I ask that now is, you know, I have a younger sister who just graduated this year, and you know, I'd say graduated in quotes because
from high school.
You know, yeah. Graduated from high school. She's going to be getting her diploma, her high school diploma, driving through her high school parking lot.
Oh gosh!
And they're doing a drive-through graduation. And
like you're going to In and Out.
In and Out, yeah, right? It's like you're picking up fucking fast food.
A double.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Can I get a diploma for $5?
Would you like any fries with that? But yeah, it's crazy, and you know, some schools are coming out right now saying, yeah, we're not gonna have a fall semester. Some are saying it's gonna be online. Some are saying are holding off, right? And I was just telling my sister, I was like, look, if you have to pay $10,000 for your first semester freshman year in college, like when I think back to that time, I think far more about the experience than I do about my theology and English 101 classes that I took. And the best part about it was physically being in the dorms, you know, check that box, you know, eating at the dining halls, check that box, you know, just going to all the parties. Exactly. Yeah. You got it. And that is truly the experience of college that we're really referring back to. And I was like, look, if that's removed right now and you got to take your first semester of college from your bedroom or from your dorm room, take a gap year. Find something different, think a little outside of the box, and go for it. And I as an 18-year-old girl, you know, who's not feeling the best about graduating and missing prom and all that stuff, like I see it as an opportunity, but I'm like I've just been thinking a lot about that because of, you know, her situation, and then even just with this whole COVID thing and the online learning being accelerated and all that, like it's got to just be different going forward for anyone who's younger than 18 or even in college right now.
For sure. I mean, I just saw it literally today, thanks to our Barstool boys. What's his name? KFC.
Yeah.
So he does his like 1 minute videos that are hilarious, and he did one today, and he was talking about how colleges are going to still be charging full tuition, even though you can't go to you can't have that experience. So it's all virtual, but they're still going to charge everybody. And I'm like you said, it's like, man, there's a cheaper way to tailgate and have fun.
You can, yeah, like, and my mom even brought up when we were talking about it last week, and she was like, well, she could just go to like the local community college and take online classes there and go to work. And I was like, even that is a tenth of the price of what we're talking about at a esteemed university. So I'm sure there's just going to be some crazy shifts in the next probably 5 to 10 years on how we all look at the U of M's and the St. Thomas's and all these premier schools across the country who are now going to be fighting to figure out how to actually, back up the price that they're asking for every year.
It's amazing that no one is like, I mean, there's some people that call them out for that, but I think it's really coming to the forefront now amongst a lot of things. But yeah, I mean, I think we're living in the most disruptive time for education. And I think that, one thing even with like my company, that our long-term plan is so right now we're building, for those who don't know, I'm co-founder of a startup called Activ, which is an e-commerce accelerator. So, but like that's like the base of what we're building. But long term, we are going to build what's called Activ Academy. And our whole vision there is to build a future founder program. So everything I talked about like going straight to the source, like we want to be able to like take all of the, like, even back when I was at the U in some of these classes, the amount of people that like had ideas but didn't know how to execute, or like didn't know even who to talk to, but like had really good ideas. Like I can't imagine now these kids, like, and then also like all the kids that are feeling lost and like, oh my God, I don't know what I want to do with my life. But like there's so much talent out there that's just not being utilized. And so part of our vision is to build that type of disruptive program where it's like we're going to take on, however many kids or graduates or even people in college, and help them build companies. And we're seeing now more than ever, like, you're able to launch, with a smartphone, a business, and from your couch. And so providing kids the tools to do that, to me, I mean, because I have this, like, maybe it's an irrational fear or what, but like there are nights where like I will wake up and I'll freak out because I'm like, somewhere in the world, someone has the cure for fill in the blank, or like someone has that product that could revolutionize X and Y industry, but they are not going to do it because they don't have the resources, they don't have the capital, they don't have the team or the know-how to even start or begin. And to me, that's a complete waste. And that's like one of the main drivers for why I'm building what I'm building, and also just my life in general, especially being internationally adopted. I'm just like, man, there's so many people out there that have good ideas that just don't have the tools. And so I think now is the time. Now is the time to build, the systems and the machine to like be a catalyst for like taking advantage of this change. Because I think it's about time. It's way overdue that someone questioned the college thing from an ROI standpoint. And not only that, but like I also think it's important not just to be a critic, but also to be someone who steps up with the solution. And I think providing a different path. I mean, online learning has existed for a long time, but I think giving that some more beef, and then also stepping in and building things like future founder programs, or building accelerators, or building these, we're seeing a lot of different accelerators and different incubators pop up that they don't really care what your degree was or if you're even in college. They just care about the idea and can you execute. So yeah, man, crazy disruption happening for sure.
And like from my personal experience, high school was hard, college was hard, but at the same time I was pretty complacent from like a challenging myself from thinking about long-term things, because I knew the education system, and I knew how to just get my A's and B's,
Yeah.
enjoy the experience with my friends, and just kind of be, which does like have a ton of benefit because you're not forced into the rat race it is of the corporate world, or you don't have to jump into an entrepreneur venture while you might be too young. So there's like a ton of pros for like continuing to allow yourself to kind of just figure out who you are. But at the same time, I have no idea how I'll handle when I have kids and how they want to go through the college system, but it's definitely going to be a learning process.
I'll just think it's going to be over 2 decades by the time your kid would go to college.
Very good point.
So, like, you know, we don't necessarily have to dive in on, oh, well, what's it going to be in 20 years, right? But, like, think about how much different it's going to be from every standpoint. Your kid's going to be driving to school probably in a self-automated car, and you're just going to pack his bags and trust a robot to take your kid to school every day.
Right.
And you're going to be working from home still, selling Facebook ads. And, like, your wife's going to be an Instagram model, and that's going to be old school.
Are you going to be living in this house, though?
Ooh, yeah, he's still going to be living with 5 other guys running a startup.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be opposed to that at all.
Yeah, right. No,
in
sounds like a
the
good idea.
chair, too.
in the floral chairs, no.
Chairs.
By that time, though, in the next 20 years, like, these wooden legs are going to be, like, ground down to the bottom, so we're just going to kind of be sitting on the ground.
Yeah.
That's nuts. So how did you kind of come up with this idea, or what was kind of your path to creating Activ? I mean, it's clear that you're very passionate about it and this idea of pursuing ideas and manifesting that. So how did that all kind of come up? Were you in the startup space beforehand?
Yeah, so like we were talking about before this, so Busy jumped in with those guys.
Really? Busy. Proud sponsor.
Yes.
There you
best. Those guys are the best. Shout out to Alex and Andrew. So yeah, and I think, so I'll take it even all the way back to when I was a kid. So I was always the shy kid because I was always like observing people, and I was, you know, learning through them what to do and what not to do. And so I've had that same kind of observation and deduction thing my whole life. And with startups, when I got into that space, and then with Busy, and just like, we're living in like a startup city, kind of. There's a lot of really awesome stuff happening. And I think from just paying attention to some of the pain points and seeing like, some of the pain points that a lot of founders face, I thought to myself, well, what if you could build something and reverse engineer, like, and be like the team to help founders execute their ideas. And that originally started, really, I was just, my friends and I would call it R&D, rip off and duplicate. So we R&D Gary Vaynerchuk's model. He's got like the holding company VaynerX, and then he's got like VaynerMedia and all these different subsidiaries. And so me being me, I was like, oh, we can build like a holding company, and then we can have all, like, each of the subs can have their own, like, basically, like, they're all under like a marketing umbrella, but they can have their own focus, and we can like work with founders to like help them execute. And so we tried that for a little bit, and like, it worked, but it was a little bit of a mess. And it actually wasn't until the fall of this past year, 2019, where we all kind of had a kumbaya moment. We were like, look, this is not scalable, or this is not going to work. And we ended up parting ways with, completely amicably, but parting ways with what was Activ Media and Activ Experience. So like Activ Media was media, so it was content people. And that was my buddy Paul Weaver, who you should definitely have on this podcast. I think his handle is Paul Wheatthins on Instagram.
Yeah, wait, he was gonna be the speaker at the Lincoln Drink before
it
got pushed away.
Yeah, so
is he actually who is Paul? I've heard of him.
So Paul, he's
oh wait, hold on. Yeah, I know you wanted to hear this.
Oh, that's good. Well, ASMR. So no, Paul is a local creative photographer, videographer, awesome dude. I was in his wedding. He's the man. Him and I like started Activ, and so we met in college, and then kind of both knew we wanted to work together and really help like brands and companies scale. And so we started Activ originally, and he kind of was heading up Activ Media, And then Active Experience was like my friend Nicole Hillman, who is like an amazing event planner, and like that was like the event side that we were gonna build. And in the fall, at that Kumbaya moment, we were like, yeah, this is not the best model, and we ended up parting ways with Nicole and Paul, and the remainder founders, myself, Alex, and Daniel Ocon.
Awesome.
We had a sister,
Angie, yeah,
who's awesome.
She's the best.
High energy.
Yeah, super high energy. I would not want to mess with her. She's amazing.
She can kick all of our asses.
Yeah. Daniel could too, but she could kick Daniel's ass.
That's on record.
That's on record. Daniel, sorry, man. But so Daniel, Alex, and I are equal partners, and we kind of came out of all of that, kind of like a phoenix out of the dust, and decided, if we really want to do this, how can we build something that can truly serve founders? And the way the world is going, it's going digital, and e-commerce is like the future. It's already here, but it's like here to stay. And so we were like, let's build like the SEAL Team 6 of e-commerce ninjas who can partner with founders to scale their businesses online. And so we went all in on e-commerce and basically like social media advertising, funnel building, back-end integration, the whole thing. And we're like, even took it a step further, and we looked at the agency model that has existed since like Mad Men. And it's like, in my eyes, also a little archaic and a little over bloated. And a lot of times what I found, with agencies in the startup space, it's expensive, and these agencies like charge this fee or like by the hour, and it's like they don't have a vested interest really in the success of the startup. They're going to get paid for the deliverables, which whatever, that's how they make their living. But in my eyes, if we're taking it from the lens of serving founders, it's not the best thing. And so Daniel, myself, and Alex, we were like, okay, how can we disrupt that model a little bit and, build a system that can, create partnerships with these founders in a way that's sustainable and also adds value. So what we did was, we have like our base, as you know, from like running ads, like you have to spend money to make money online, period. No way around it. So we'll do like a setup fee with the founder, but then it's like a performance-based thing. So we take a percentage of revenue minus ad spend. And what we found since transitioning to that is not only is it like softening the blow for the founder where they're not being charged this astronomical fee, but it's also like showing them that, we're going to put the money where our mouth is, and we're going to like jump in with you. And like when you win, like we win. If you fail, we fail. And so that's kind of burned our ships in a way where it's lit a fire under our ass to be like, we gotta execute and we gotta perform. And it's also just, like I said, truly established an actual partnership. And it's been an amazing ride. And like since the fall and like even in December was like truly when we shifted everything and went all in on e-commerce. And
did you have to say goodbye to a couple clients to then take on the right clients?
Yeah, and so we went through all that, which is hard when you're a startup because it's kind of like goes against the grain a little bit. And like you're like, oh, I can't say no to money, but at some point you kind of have to get the right people. And so we since then are not only profitable, but we're growing every month, and we're growing in team, and even in COVID land, it's like I'm so lucky that is the case, and we're also able to still pay people. So I have nights where I'm like, this is like kind of my blessings, because I'm like not only able to like build something with amazing people, but also able to pay people. And like we told our team right away, like we're gonna take care of you guys, and we're not gonna like lay people off. And so it's not only have we been able to do that, but also been able to grow. And I think it's a testament to, again, going in on the e-commerce model, and then also the deal structure that we do. It's just been very lucrative for us. So yeah,
it must be wholesome too to know that like the value that you're after long term is finally aligning with like the companies that you're working for. So you're not just kind of, poking for the money to like then pay the people that you want to. You're actually able to holistically like take on a venture and be like, all right, I'm about to grow my company while I can grow someone else, and we're going to grow together because of the commission type base, if you will, marketing strategy.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, even to that, like one of our core values is founders first. And the reason why we chose that is because we can, like, no BS, like, say it. Like, we're all founders. Like, Dana was a founder, Alex is a founder, and like we can actually say we are a company built by founders, like for founders. Like, we're not an agency. We're not this like, creative full service agency thing. We are like here to like help founders grow, like no BS.
Mm-hmm.
And I think being able to say that authentically and truly believe it, and also like, like I think I said before, like I just believe that founders are the true like change makers and people who shape culture. Like, yes, brands do, but like the founders of those brands are the ones like making shit happen. And like I want to back those people. Like I want to align my chips with them, and I want to do whatever I can to build something that can serve those people, because when you look at the state of the world needs those people and doesn't necessarily need more, I don't want to rip on corporate America too much, but like
Run of the mill.
Yeah. I want the people that are like putting their necks on the line, building things, and like let's back those people.
Yeah, Declan and I just got finished reading Shoe Dog. We read it the end of last year.
Very good things.
And it's been kind of like our Bible, if you will, of like entrepreneurship and really just trusting the process, continuing to do what you love, not being afraid to treat your biggest passion as a side hustle, because that's what Phil Knight had to do for the first 8-9 years of Nike, when it wasn't even called Nike. It was Blue Ribbon. It was just his side hustle. He was a teacher. He was an accountant, and he was trying to schlep shoes on the side. So that's been like really cool to hear his founding story, because you're right. Founders are the change makers. They are the people that kind of instill culture and can shape how people want to achieve a new thing. And I'm curious, since you're dealing with a ton of founders, what have been kind of like some core attributes or something like internal that when you first bring on a new client or you're working with someone for a little bit, you're like, he's got that it factor. He's got that kind of little itch to him that you can see long term might pan out.
Yeah, I mean, almost all of them have just been tried and true hustlers. So one of our first ever guys, his name's Zach Wendell, and he wrote a book called The Bible Study. And that dude is such a hustler. Like, the dude is like, if he wasn't building that, he'd build other things, and like he always has something going on in like a new product or whatever. So I think if like, people that have that just innate, I think I heard the other day he even said like he had his first business when he was 9, like selling seashell necklaces to people on the beach, like those type of people.
Mm-hmm.
You just know that like when push comes to shove, they're gonna execute and they're gonna be able to like pull off what they say they're pulling off. And so I think there's like that. There's also this, I like people that have vision and it's not just like I'm building this one thing, but like I'm building this thing because this thing is a catalyst for this thing, this thing, this thing, and this thing. And we love partnering with people like that, because it's like, okay, we can help you scale this one product, but I know that you have other things in the pipeline. And like, part of my dream is to say 10 years from now, our core business, this accelerator thing, I don't know if you guys are familiar with, like, I know Time Magazine does like the Time's most influential people thing. Mm-hmm. And you walk in Time Magazine, they have like on the wall, like all these faces. Like, to be able to, like, if offices are still a thing, like in our office have all these different faces of like founders that we've like fueled. And like, we're big on like the abundance mindset thing. So like with that, it's like, we like people that get the whole concept of making war with a multitude of counselors. Like, don't do it all alone, hire the experts, outsource the stuff, and like focus on what you do best. And so we truly like want to work with people that get that, and like we can sense that they have that mindset, because that means they see us as a long-term asset to them, where it's no longer just like, okay, help me fill this need immediately. And it's more so like, these are my guys. Like this is the team. I see that if they can execute on this, I can focus on, being my personal brand or being the founder of this company and the face of it, knowing that like everything else is being taken care of. And instead of maybe even employing and having an overblown payroll, I just have these guys, and like these guys are my online machine. So I think, yeah, it's a little bit of a hustler thing, it's the vision thing, and it's also the abundance mindset thing.
That's killer.
I like that. So it's cool because you're getting at the idea that you don't necessarily have to have 20 different clients or 20 different founders that you're working with, but rather you can have 4 or 5 just dogs that you can work with and truly be partners with. And I think, Andrew and I echo that entirely. Like, it would be great to have 20 sponsors or 20 different people we're constantly working to create content with. But at the end of the day, that 20 spreading yourself that thin is not going to provide as much value, because that's really what it comes back to, is like how it's value in, value out with those different kinds of people. So I totally love what you're saying there, man. Kind of on the flip side though, when it comes to founders, I mean, we love having entrepreneurs on this podcast and talking about people's come up story and how they built what they've built, and a lot of what where the growth comes from and how people build things is rooted in the uncomfort. And I think with founders especially, and when I say founders too, I don't want to frame it in the sense that they're this higher up person. Like,
yeah, it's the opposite.
A founder is a founder is the very grassroots person that's just making, like you said, just making shit happen every single day. But what people don't recognize a lot of the times is like, they're the ones taking the risk. There's a lot of hard shit that goes on. And, just talking with like Sophie Vince or Cirksum, who's been on this podcast before, she was like, you got to have Antonio on. And then Alex Fenner was also like, you got to have Antonio on. Texted both of them the last 2 days, asked them like what we should talk about. And they both said like verbatim, like, you have to talk to Antonio about mental health. Like, this dude fucking loves talking about mental health and bringing that to the forefront. And I know that's a lot about a big part of your personal brand too. So on the flip side, like handling the mental health as a founder personally, and bringing that to the forefront, like, where did that all come into play? Has that been something that's been throughout your whole life, or was there kind of like an aha moment where you realized that there was a like this should be held at the highest or at the same height as like physical?
Yeah. So the mental health thing, that's great. I love this. So first of all, Soph and Alex, the best.
They're awesome.
The best.
We had some great conversations with them.
Yeah.
Amazing human beings. I actually met Sophie through Busy way back in the day because we were doing a shoot, and one of the interns at the time went to St. Thomas, and we like needed talent for the shoot, and she like got her friend Sophie, and like that's how we met, and we've stayed in touch ever since. And like it's been so cool to see. And like I was so pumped when she like went like starting like the fitness brand thing and like that,
your fitness witness,
because it's like I love seeing people get over the anxiety of, oh my god, what if people judge me, and just say fuck it and do it. I love that so much. And so when she did that, I was like, this is amazing. But yeah, the mental health thing. So my whole life, I think, without getting too super deep with it, I think there's something, and they've done studies with it, with adoption and like attachment issues and trust issues and different, anxiety and all that. So I think on like a basic level from like birth, there was probably something that sent me on a trajectory to be a little more anxious than the average human. But then, like I said, growing up, I was always kind of the shy, observant person, and I used to get a little anxious going to school, as I'm sure a lot of kids do. And so it's just kind of been a part of my life, but it wasn't really until post-college that it was like really in front of me. Like, I think maybe it's because I lived alone, and like you're a little more isolated after college, and like because I didn't do the corporate thing, I think I was just forced to reckon with my own demons in a lot of ways. So like post college, I think was when it really like, and it for me personally, it's like it's anxiety. It's not so much depression, it's anxiety, and it's like in particular like panic stuff. So like at some point in my life, like post college, I must have had a really bad panic attack, and then since then it's like morphed into, well, that was shitty. Like that was a shitty feeling. I don't ever want to feel that again. And so it's like that just sends you down the spiral of like avoidance. And so I think I've just had to grapple with that for the past couple of years. And in that, being the observant person, I just looked around and I was like, okay, if I'm experiencing this, other people have to be experiencing it too. And why is this not being talked about? Like, why is this a taboo thing? And also, like, why, like, a lot of people that I talk to, it's like, well, they've, like, for instance, I'm very lucky to have a partnership with Lululemon where we do these, like, mental health events. And before COVID, we'd have them once a month. And I think in June, we're doing, like, 2 virtual ones. But through doing these events, like, you find a lot of people are like, I don't really deal with anxiety a ton every day, and I'm not, like, depressed. But, like, what does this all mean? And so a lot of it, I've just, maybe you saw my video the other day, but I'm just like, my stance on the whole thing is, I think the industry needs a rebrand, and I think that we need to change the conversation a little bit, which is why I'm so vocal about it. I think that we need to get it away from this big scary monster to like where, like you said, like fitness and nutrition is. I think fitness and nutrition have become extremely digestible, pun intended, and just attainable and just relatable for everybody. Like everyone can wrap their head around going to yoga or going for a run or lifting weights or playing sports. That's like so second nature. And like same thing with nutrition, like drink enough water today, or like you should probably not eat those Cheetos every day, or like whatever the thing is. Like people get that on a very fundamental level. People don't get that for mental health. It's just we're not taught it, and it's not talked about in school. It's not, you're not raised as a kid, like you're raised, playing sports and, drink your milk and all that stuff. But you're not raised to like be like, hey, you should understand your inner dialogue, or you should understand, when you're feeling these different bodily sensations. Like you're just not taught that. And so I think there's so much potential to bring that to the forefront and to bring that on the same level as nutrition and fitness. So that's kind of like my thesis on it, is like if we do that, the world will be more emotionally sane and everyone will be a little more in tune with what's going on. And I think, just everyone will just be more equipped to take on the day. And I think what I'm trying to do is really take a complicated topic and just distill it down to like really simple things. So I think that's like, even with a Lululemon partnership, like the whole fitness analogy, like even for myself, selfishly, it's like if I have a panic attack, instead of being like, oh my God, there's something wrong with me, I'm going to die, it's like, I didn't stretch today. Or like I just went on a run and I'm like, I've got a cramp. I didn't drink enough water. Mm-hmm. And just like literally for anyone, even taking that analogy alone is like life changing, because it takes the scary out of it and it makes it more human. And on like an existential level and on like a big global citizen level, which I want to be, not only is it great for like the individual, but it's also been an amazing way for me to connect with other humans. And I think it's again, we live in the most divided world politically and just every which way. And it's an amazing opportunity to like bring people together, because what I've seen at these events that I do is someone will share their story and then someone else will be like, oh shit, like that is so relatable. Like I'm going through that too. And one thing that I try to tell people is like, I'm haunted by the statistics and like the suicide rates, and I feel like every day someone is committing suicide, and it's like I look at all that and I'm like, for better or worse, as like an empath, like I really feel it. And I'm like, I'm sick of it. Like I'm sick of the stats. And I wonder, someone like Anthony Bourdain, for instance, like what could have been done? Like what, in the last 2 weeks of his life, what could have been said to him or done to like maybe save him? Or I think a lot of times people just feel like they're backed into a corner and they feel alone and isolated. And so, again, just by being more vocal about it, I think I'm just sticking my neck out there and hopefully providing more opportunities for people to relate and come to grips with their own demons and, really learn how to live in peace with them. I've learned how to live in peace with anxiety. Even this morning, like, I tend to like live in the future a lot. I'm not like really a past dweller. And I think because of that, like even this
Hence
morning.
the anxiety.
Yeah. And like hence this morning I woke up and I was like, oh shit, what am I going to talk about tonight? What are these guys going to think about me? Like I've never met these guys before. And like, I don't like, are they going to ask me something I'm not going to have an answer for? Like all these things started going off in my head, which sent me down the spiral. And so I had to like, I meditate every day, but like today I did like a 30-minute sit, which is longer than what I usually do. I usually do like 10 to 20. But again, that's like taking the sports thing again. It's like today's game day. I'm here. This is game day. This is the game.
We're in the game.
This is the game. And I woke up today and I was like, instead of like getting too, bringing on the shame too much, like, oh my God, why am I freaking out so much? I was like, you know what? This is great. This is bringing to the surface a lot of like, instead of anxiety, I looked at it as like game day jitters. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to meditate for 30 minutes and I'm going to like visualize myself sitting on this couch, having this conversation. And I think because I did that, I walked in this house and I was completely fine. And, yeah, I don't know. So that was a lot, but
No, there's a lot there. Do you have anything? I have one thing that comes
Please
to mind.
go.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
go ahead.
You brought up a good point of like, it's like fitness is so. I'll just attack it from the fitness perspective right away. We normalize fitness because it's so easy to see that a fit person not only is like good looking aesthetically, but you feel great and you live longer and you're healthier and therefore can battle things now like COVID or any sort of sickness. And because you're a healthy person, right, you have so many other things that you can then pursue, right? The healthy person can think 1,000 things. The sick person has one thing that they always think about to be healthy. So what does that mean then when you look at it from the mental standpoint, right? What does the mental mind gain? The mental mind doesn't necessarily mean that they're a better looking person. The mental mind doesn't necessarily that they live longer. The mental mind doesn't really even mean that they're going to be successful. But what the mental mind, to me, you gain the most is what we're all kind of really after at the end of the day, which is happiness. When you can sit there and have this constant practice of looking in the mirror and being self-aware, having an inner dialogue, addressing these types of feelings that you're having, and like you say, normalize those things, it then allows you to pursue everything else and put to the wayside the BS that's in your own mind.
For sure.
So you really brought that out of me just through what you were saying, and I really appreciate that. It's pretty freaking amazing, dude.
Yeah, and it's awesome you bring up the inner dialogue part, because that's like the meditation part, that you were able to sit in that 30 minutes and you're able to, focus in on why you're thinking these thoughts. And we had a guest come on our show, Ian Deloney.
Yeah,
Ian, he puts his thoughts into words better than anyone I know.
Into his artwork, too.
Into his
man.
artwork, too.
Holy cow.
God, he's awesome.
He's so cool.
And the podcast we had was focusing on inner dialogue and being able to have that conversation, not choosing Netflix or, doing something that would put those thoughts at bay and not giving them the worth that they deserve. And you're having those thoughts primarily because you're uncomfortable and you have challenged yourself in a way, usually in a way that you actually want to go. You want to head towards that uncomfort, but you're scared. You feel threatened, like you're gonna fail, and that's where like the angst comes in, the stress comes in, and I just really appreciated when Ian was talking about it, and even as you just articulated with the mental health aspect, is, you know, giving that inner dialogue the value that it deserves, and using meditation as an outlet, or journaling, simple things. And you can even work in the other things that you just brought up, or which were physical fitness and you know, drinking your water. All of it, like
strictly drinking water.
Yep.
It's so important.
it is.
They don't do it enough.
They don't do it
think
enough.
anybody is.
Yeah, I'll raise my hand on that one.
And it also helps to have the conversation with the person across from you. As much as the inner dialogue helps, you can get stuck in your own head, and you lose the ground that you're actually trying to strive to beat to gain. And I love having these conversations on our podcast, because I know that I have the opportunity to win right now, because I'm putting myself in an uncomfortable situation. You know, we're riffing here for 2 hours, just trying to carry a conversation that could be entertaining. But really, I'm just trying to learn about the person across from me, and I'm uncomfortable the entire time from the standpoint of, like, what's next?
Yeah.
What is the next person going to say? How am I going to respond to it? So this is a fun little uncomfortable tactic that I get to challenge myself every day.
Yeah, I'll kind of chime in on that. A couple of things. So, did you guys play sports?
Yes, we played football at St. Thomas.
Nice. So, grew up playing hockey and soccer, and so I am obsessed. I think the reason why the sports analogy sticks, because I'm just obsessed with athletics and what it can teach you. And I always loved training, and I loved this idea of training. And like for the longest time, I wanted to be like a strength and conditioning coach. And I just love the idea of, like, you know, being catabolic and then anabolic, and like breaking like getting your ass kicked, knowing that like that's like a part of growth. And I think one thing on the meditation side, like, that you bring up is you talk about this idea of being uncomfortable, and this is like so important for people. So using the fitness analogy, like, part of mindfulness and meditation and just being mentally fit is embracing that uncomfortable thing. And the way that I've been able to attack it is, I call it feel the burn. So just like you do a wall, like, I don't know if, like, back in the hockey days, we used to do like wall sits and like pass a plate, like a weight. Those are the worst. But you feel the burn, and like you hate it, but you're like, okay, this actually is kind of, I know that this is gonna be good. With uncomfortable sensations, period, that's how I approach them now. And like with meditation, like, it's not easy for me to sit for 30 minutes. It's actually really hard. And this is something that I have a mindfulness coach that I work with, and we were talking about this the other day. Like, this idea, like, particularly as a founder, it's so counterintuitive to sit and do nothing for 30 minutes. It's so against every like bone in my body to like sit. Because like I'll sit and I'll be like, oh shit, I got so much to do, or like I have a meeting in 10 minutes, or like I'm being pulled in everywhere but there. But like that is the practice. Like the practice of meditation is like being pulled and then being brought back. Like, and like the more mentally fit you are, the less you're affected by that pull and that gravity, and the more you can embrace the burn, and you can do a wall sit for not 30 seconds but like 3 minutes or 10 minutes. And so yeah, bringing the fitness thing, like if you guys take away anything from today, like start using fitness analogies for the mental side, because it's so, especially because you played sports, it's so easy to wrap your head around now. And I feel like a lot of times in life, that is like the key to making a habit or an idea stick, is like bringing it down to like something that you can already relate with,
something that you already know, or a past experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was good. You gonna say what I'm gonna say?
Yeah, we do the Embrace North.
Well, I was gonna say
Alter Fitness.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So Embrace North, absolutely. I'll let you touch on that in a sec.
Okay.
But you brought up, an analogy that I really like with meditation is called Trap the Puck.
Ooh.
And this is something that we've done since day one of this podcast. And it started as we trap the puck on a conversation so we can transition to a different part of the podcast, where now it's what it's evolved to is you trap the puck in your own mind. When you're meditating, you're being pulled in all these different directions, like a goalie would be trying to find that puck, and that puck being the present moment. And when you're able to finally do that, that's when you have finally harnessed and focused on what's really in front of you. And I think that's what meditation is at the ultimate, at at the simplest form is just like focusing on your breath and that breath making it or translating directly to being in the present. So take that for what it's worth. I just love using that as a metaphor to trap the puck, trap your mind.
Yeah, and you ask, like, you know, similar to, like, you look at, like, a LeBron James or, like, these super athletes. It's like everyone's like, oh, I want to be LeBron, or I want to be these, like, insane athletes that have insane athletic ability and have good endurance and all those things. Like, when you look at that on the mental side, I think, you know, what it looks like to be mentally fit is there's this word in mindfulness, like, they talk about, like, what it means to be equanimous. And
is that with an A, like aqua?
It's an E. So it's like,
okay.
Equanimity is like the full word, which is a beast. But it's like, basically what it means is being able to approach anything, like, that's thrown at you with, like, peace and, like, harmony. And that's, like, you know, someone like LeBron or these other athletes, like, that level-headedness. And, you know, I think what it means to be mentally fit, and, like, what I'm striving for, is to be someone who can navigate the world, you know, with equanimity. And prime example, I mean, we're sitting in ultimately, like, the best exercise right now for building that muscle, and that's COVID. And the freaking coronavirus and quarantine and all the stuff that comes with it. Like, this is a massive opportunity to build that resilience and that, you know, peace with uncertainty. And so practicing meditation and mindfulness is how you build those muscles and how you become, quote unquote, more athletic mentally. And that's kind of like the end game for me, is like, how can I be someone, especially as a founder, like, how can I be like a pillar and lead by example, not only for my team, but then the founders that we work with, and then also in my relationships and my families. And just like, I want to be that guy that, you know, the house is burning down and, like, everyone, like, looks to me because I'm, like, able to be calm and cool and collected. Like, I want to have that Navy SEAL thing. And I haven't tried the Embrace North thing, but, like, that, I looked at that when it started. I'm like, man, I should do that.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of what we're getting after, honestly.
Pushing towards the uncertainty and the stressfulness. Yeah. I've done ice baths and stuff, and I was never a big ice bath guy during football because it sucks. Like, I hate going into the cold. And but I read, like, Wim Hof, and I listened to him on Joe Rogan. I was like, all right, this guy's the man. It was like 2016-ish, but I never really practiced or anything. I was just like, this is dope, but this guy's really accomplished a lot. But I was like, I'm never doing that. Well, Jason Coons, who we met
love Jason.
at the Lululemon event, or we saw him at the Lululemon event, and he'd just gotten done with the first Embrace North thing. And Declan and I went up to him and were like, hey, can we join the next one? He's like, yeah, there was 5 of us the first time. We're expecting to have a couple more people this time. Come to Cedar Lake, 1 o'clock, Sunday. Bring some water shoes, some water gloves, and we'll do a light workout and then get in the water. And Declan and I, all right, well, let's do it. And then we got a couple of our buddies, and we went and did it, and we did it for 4 or 5 straight weeks, and it was, I think, the most healthy practice I've ever participated in consistently, from the standpoint of, like, you get in that water and it is just as hard as the last time, but you know that you'll get over it eventually, and you're just testing your mental strength from this just sudden burst of, like, fucking cold. Like, your body goes in and you are shook. Your mind's like, this is the last thing I want to be doing. Get out right now. You're an idiot. Leave. And you sit in that mental state for 45 seconds, and it's so stressful. But you kind of just overcome it, and you realize the people next to you are in it with you, and it's like the camaraderie aspect a little bit. And then your just mental state, like, you just flip the switch at some point. Your body comes used to it, and now you're just sitting in that water, and you're like, holy smokes. Just 30 seconds ago, I was ready to, you know, just end the day. And that kind of feeling gravitates and energizes days after, or hours and days after. You can revert back to that moment and realize, like, a next stressful situation, whether, you know, you're rushing to get home to make a meal, or, you know, something happened with a girlfriend or family, and, like, that stress indicator just fires again. your body recognizes it before your mental state even, like, oh, it's that same positioning that I just was in the water, which was really cool to experience. So I was super like stoked to do it for the 5-6 weeks that we did, and we're trying to continue it in the summer. That venture's to be determined, but I love getting in the water and testing myself that way.
Yeah, no, that sounds amazing. I'll definitely be joining you guys. I think, yeah, like I said, I struggle to sit with meditation, but the reason why I do it is for that same reason. It's like I see, like, I would be in a different, probably emotional state right now if I didn't sit this morning for 30 minutes. And it has a residual effect throughout your day. And even though I like struggle to sit sometimes, almost always, later in the day I find myself less reactive, and I call it like creating a buffer between like yourself and like your ego. So literally I picture like now, I think because I've been meditating for a couple months, it's like consistently, when I have a thought now, like my default setting is like not to just like be consumed by that thought. It's like I literally picture that at arm's length, and like the majority of the time I'm like, okay, that thought is here and I don't have to engage with it. Whereas almost everyone, the ego and like who they are, like they're like the same thing. So like someone has that anxious thought or the thing like, oh my God, am I going to fuck up on the Backpocket podcast today? And they're consumed by that. And they're like, this is me. I am freaking out. When in reality, it's like, that's just a thought that just popped up in consciousness somewhere. And it's here and I'm like here. And so I think like physically creating that separation over time with enough practice, like you really become less reactive and you become less consumed, and that in turn leads you to like be more equanimous and more just emotionally regulated for the people in your life, which I think is also really important. I think life is not just about, I think me being adopted has permanently made me want to be a selfless person, because adoption is like, from what all that I know, side tangent, all that I know about my adoption is that my mom was 18 when she had me. There was no known father, and she wanted me to go internationally adopted, which meant like to the United States. And then the family that took me in, my family now, like they're the best people in the world. And, you know, my true mom now, actually lost a daughter before adopting my sister and I. And so right then and there, like both acts were like selfless acts. Like, and so my life has been built on a selfless act. So I think everything that I try to do in life, like I talk a lot about the individual because I think it's important, but I also try to tie it back into this global thing. And how can you be a global citizen? How can you be, you know, there for the people in your life? And so with the mental health thing, yes, it's good for you as an individual to build that athleticism mentally. That's one thing. But the reason why it's good is because you can then take that and be a port in a storm for the people in your life. You can be like a pillar in your relationships. You can be a leader in society. You can take on deeper, harder challenges than most people. And so I think, yeah, that's kind of, I don't remember where I was going with that, but.
No, I mean, what you just said just gave me chills, man.
Chills.
Like, that's so cool that everything comes back to your foundation.
Everything.
Right?
Yeah.
And the recognition of your foundation, of the selfless act at birth, is the thing that you want to share with the world and promote and instill, and not only in yourself, but knowing that when you do promote and act selflessly, that other people will do the same. And that's incredible. That is the power of what we do as humans, honestly. And I really, really liked what you said about keeping your thoughts at arm's reach. I think that is such a good, quick antidote to temper or handling your anxiety, because our brain is so good at making these thoughts seem like they're real.
Yeah.
We have nightmares for a reason. We have great dreams where we think we're frickin' there for a reason. We also have thoughts where we can put ourselves in future situations that aren't even real and elicit emotions in those situations that, again, aren't even real. So the idea that always keeping your thoughts at an arm's reach, knowing that they're important so that you can grab them and harness them, but also knowing that you can push it away to the wayside and focus on what's right in front of you, closer than arm's reach. I think that's absolutely phenomenal.
Well, and you always need to know, too, one thing that was life-changing for me was recognizing that you are just a combination of different sense gates and energies, without, at the risk of sounding too hippie nonsense. Like, and that's the struggle, too, with this industry. It's like, a lot of people are like, oh, you're just...
Very theoretical and
you're
vague.
just too guru. Yeah. So, like, what's helpful is to recognize that, like, you can question what you're experiencing. Like, a lot of people just, like, we're not taught this, so it's like, we're just kind of making up for all the stuff that we just should have been taught a long time ago. But anyways, like, a lot
We're
of
here now, dude.
Yeah,
It's okay.
A lot of people will go through life, and if they're feeling shitty that day, or if they're feeling whatever the emotion, they just take that on, and they think that that's the only response or emotion that they can experience at that given moment. When in reality, that's like, it's almost like if you picture like a loudspeaker or something. It's like, okay, anxiety is cranked up to 10 today, but I also have gratitude, and I also have bravery and courage and all these other things that could also be loud too. So I have the agency to turn this one down and turn this one up. I think when you recognize that, it's game changing, because then it's like, oh, so you're telling me that I don't actually have to feel this and let it consume me. I can just like recognize that it's there, because you'll never be able to like stop things from being conjured in your consciousness. I think that's a misconception that a lot of people have. But like, you can choose how you react to it. And so, like, I mean, even I'm curious, like with the cold water thing, like what have you guys, what changed from the first time you did it to like, is it hard every single time? Or like, if you found like the adaptability factor, like does it take less time now for you to like sit in cold water comfortably? Or
it goes back to when you said react, not like the reactive standpoint. Like, you get to choose your reaction, and that when you mentioned that really resonates and correlates to the sitting in the ice water. Like, at first, the first thing I got in the water, I put half my body in, and I'm like, that's good. I'm not putting my full body in. I'm just gonna stay right here. This is cold as shit. And the next time, like, I lowered my shoulders, and then the next time I like lowered my hands, and I was like fully submerged. And it was kind of a confidence thing. It was kind of a realization that, you know, your body, your mental state will overcome it. And I've chosen this to be okay. I've chosen that, you know, I don't have to have like all of my anxiety skyrocket to the top of my head. I can just sit here and like work through this, and then it'll evaporate, if you will, or like that cold will kind of dissipate, and you'll just sit, and it becomes it goes from being extremely uncomfortable to being comfortable. And that's just weird to even think about. But yeah, it's your choice. You have that active choice.
Yeah, I think the challenge evolves. So like the first time you do it, there's the anxiety is at 11 because you've never done it before. You're super nervous. You're like, oh my God, I know it's cold, but I've never actually felt it before. And then you get in, and then you go through the process of it. You go through it again, you go through it again, you go through it again, because you realize after you finish it the first time, and then the second time, the third time, you realize that the feeling that you get at the very end of it, when you finally get out of the water and you're warm, and that energy that you get from that experience, and then like Andrew said before, when you revert back to that feeling, is the longevity of that energy is insane, and you want to go back in because you want more. So
it's like
the
a
energy
high.
changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the energy changes, right? But the challenge also changes. That's the thing. You know, the next Sunday at 1 p.m. that you're going into the water again. And you know that it's cold as shit for the first 2 minutes, and that it takes 2 minutes for you to actually become comfortable, or your body goes numb, right? And you know that this time, instead of going 10 minutes, you're going to go for 20. And that it's just going to be a little different. You look at the temperature, you look at this, you look at that. You look at different scenarios. And so with the more known, because unlocks and opens up different challenges, essentially. I found this extremely hard, going from doing it as a community, where we went from 5 people the week 1, and by week 6 we had 40, and we were rolling through new 40 people every single week. We were jumping in with different people, singing the Embrace North song with different people every single week. And looking back at that, as that was 2 months ago, is like absolutely insane that like that was a thing that we were doing. It's kind of crazy. It feels like a different year almost.
Right.
Thanks, COVID.
Thanks,
right.
COVID.
But like, thank you, COVID, now into what I started doing, because I wanted that energy again. And so I wanted to go back in, but then I went by myself at 5 a.m. in the morning.
Oof.
And let me tell you, that's a totally different challenge. And the mental doubt that I had in my head before going in, knowing how cold it is, knowing that I'd be doing it by myself, kind of thinking that it might be dangerous, but honestly turning that down, because I was like, I got to do it. That is what there's always a new challenge, is what I'm getting at. And that's what's the best part about it, is no matter how many times you do it, there's always going to be a different challenge that you're going to be thinking about. And conquering that challenge, being uncomfortable and uncertain with that challenge, and then ultimately conquering that challenge, is what keeps you coming back every single time.
Do you guys follow David Goggins?
Oh yeah, I'm reading his book right now.
Oh no, that's an intense
Listening.
one.
It's very listening.
very
Sorry, I
intense.
should clarify. I'm listening to
Yeah.
that book, but it gets back to
Same
that.
thing.
I think it is the same
Yeah.
thing, right? I don't know.
Yeah,
But it's crazy.
I mean, him, Jocko Willink. I don't know if you guys are Jocko guys.
Yeah.
And Joe Rogan. I mean, they all talk about like the more hard shit you do, it's like you're building this bank that what you reference, like that you can reference to and pull from. So like the more and more like, and that's why, every day I try to. Very lucky to have a Peloton in my house. The best investment I ever made, especially, I mean, I got it pre-COVID, and then like I used it, and then when COVID came around, I'm like, oh, couldn't have been better timing. But I like go for like a 30 or so minute ride every morning. I try to, and nothing crazy, but like you get moving, and there's a lot of times, especially in the winter, when you're like, shit, I don't want to get out of bed. Like, this is so comfy, and I have a really comfortable bed, so it's like
Goes without saying.
it's the worst. So, but it's like the days that you get your ass out of bed, go for a ride, go for a run, go for a swim in the ice cold water, whatever it is. This is the best days. And then like a couple days from then, you have this like juice that you built up in this bank of like hard shit juice, like that you can pull from when you're feeling down, or you need the extra motivation to like maybe get in the water, or like do something hard, or you have a task maybe that you don't want to do, but you're like, you know what, I freaking got in the ice cold water the other day. It's 5 a.m. I can do this easily. Like, and so I think that is something that I'm really trying to explore more this year, is like, what other hard shit can I do, especially in the morning? I never like, sometimes I struggle in the mornings, but then like even backing into that, I'm like, okay, well, I'm actually, it's not that I struggle to get up, it's I struggle to get enough sleep. I like go to bed late often, and then it just fucks my morning. But then I'm realizing, okay, the mornings that I actually have, like my sacred mornings where I can get a ride in and then get a, meditation in, like those are my best days. And if I'm like someone who wants to live and make decisions based on data and feedback, like why the hell wouldn't I do that every day? So yeah, I love the ice thing. I never even did ice baths as an athlete for whatever reason. I don't know, but like,
Because they suck.
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So I gotta try that.
Yeah, for sure. No, I literally was listening on my way to work after my workout this morning, the chapter with David Goggins explaining how that your exact point of like you go through the hard shit so because of the feeling at the end. And once you recognize that feeling at the end and are aware how effective that feeling is to the rest of your day or whatever you're doing, you're going to be mad because you're not going back to that workout the next time. And that's literally why I wake up at 5 every single day to do whatever workout I decide for that day. And, you know, through this COVID time, I've had to evolve based on what I like to do. So before it was working out at Alter every single day, doing boutique fitness classes, HIIT workouts at 5:30 in the morning. Well, now that that's gone, it's like, well, I was doing kind of at-home HIIT workouts for a while. That got boring. I started running a ton, hurt my knee. And then now I'm on this yoga sculpt kick. And dude, yoga sculpt is crazy, bro.
It's hard.
It's so nuts. Like I was thinking about the evolution of yoga sculpt, which I am now fascinated on. Like I want to figure out like who was the genius who came up with this idea that you could do yoga and do really hard workouts and put them together and like make this crazy little thing now. So like I'm just obsessed with it now. I'm doing these core power yoga sculpt things every morning.
Do you have like a live stream that you tune into?
Our one of our roommates was a core power instructor, and with being a core power instructor, they give you free access to their core power app, which is on the Roku that we have in our main room. So I just put that on, and then I think I have 42 different yoga sculpt classes. I think I'm doing my core workout tomorrow morning, and then I got upper body for Friday, dude.
Nice.
Today was leg day.
Nice.
Gotta walk up all these stairs? Or?
Yeah, you know, there's just some like crazy shit that you would like. Yoga just puts you in the weirdest positions. Like, all right, now it's time to move, and you're like, I've never even been here, and now I'm moving. It's insane.
Yeah, you love challenging yourself that way. It's phenomenal, though. I love it, dude.
It's all, I don't know. I crave it, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't think I can be the same. I can't operate without it.
Yeah. And I've realized, Antonio, that you just started kind of challenging yourself with putting out like video front-facing content. I'm curious, like, why the venture? Why is the now you feel like the time to put that?
We've been digesting heavily. Since
Let's,
we got the commitment for you to come in today.
And I'm all aboard.
Yeah, no. So I mean, you talk about one of your questions about the average thing. That was gonna be my answer for that. Yeah.
So your average quality would be speaking in front of the camera?
No, it would be just video, period. The tech, the gear. I'm just getting bodied every time I try to do it. It's like I'm not a naturally like I have the eye, and I've always wanted to be, and like my part of my end game is to be like a producer and make films and documentaries. Just like side hustle for fun.
Quick side tangent. Were you a forward, like a Jason Zucker kind of?
I was a forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could. Yeah.
Like
when you
soccer
said
too?
soccer, I was a outside mid. I was like a wing.
Okay, yeah.
Which
Very
I
similar.
hate running, which is so goofy that I was a wing.
When you quickly said getting bodied, I was like, oh, he's definitely like beelining down the side of the boards.
Yep. Yeah. That's literally what I picture myself getting just wrecked when I try to do video. No, so like, I think it's so important in life to get bodied. We'll keep using that phrase. I think it's important to get tossed, and it's part of my personality to avoid it a lot of times because I don't like being bad at things initially because I'm competitive with myself. I'm not really competitive with other people, but I'm really competitive with myself. And so with video, I've had the eye for it. I know what I want to do, and I've been told that the way I communicate on camera is very natural. And so it's not like I was ever even worried about being on camera, but it's the actual physical, like, I need to set up this camera. I need to film this. I need to get the settings right. I need to go and post. I need to color grade it. I need to add all these effects. That whole world has been overwhelming for me for the longest time. And it's been an excuse for me just not doing it. But I've always had stuff I've wanted to say. And I've had like the mental health thing that I've wanted to communicate just to the masses. And so I think with this year, I was just like, fuck it. I like am sick of making that excuse, and I'm sick of letting that be like the ceiling. And because I know if I get over that, the possibilities are endless. And if I want to make docufilms at some point, if I want to just put out more content and build my personal brand, I need to grapple with this uncomfortable thing of not knowing all the answers and not knowing how to do some of this stuff. And so thanks to COVID, we were just blessed with more time and being at home. And I was like, okay, well, this is a sign from God that I should go all in on this and pursue it and just fumble my way through it. And so I started putting out videos, and I think what's allowed me to continue it is that I started out with the intention of not being good, but getting reps. So like, again, it's funny, like the more we get to know each other, I'm sure we'll do this again, like the more you're going to hear me make fitness and sports analogies, because I think it's so relatable. So like reps, this idea of reps, I think it's less about I need to be perfect, I need to be like Casey Neistat or this amazing videographer, and it's more about like, if I want to do this long term and get better and better and better, you just got to practice. There's no way around it. You can't cheat your way to being good. You have to practice. And that just means more reps, more times, more at bats. And so I started just putting out content every week, and I eventually would love to do it every day. But yeah, it's been nice. It's been selfishly kind of therapeutic, because I'll have this like running list of things. Like I'll go for walks every day, and like almost every time these ideas come to me when I'm walking of like topics to talk about. And so I have this running list that I'm just tackling, and I'm also like knocking out like, okay, today I'm going to practice 2 cameras, or today I'm going to practice different audio stuff, or today in post I'm going to practice color grading a different way, or whatever the thing is. It's just been practice time, but also expression time, kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone.
Mm-hmm.
I have a suggestion for you.
Yeah.
That I've been working on is to just film with your phone.
Yeah.
Just like when you're on your walk, just film it, and that's the post. Maybe caption it.
Just get it out
and just go. Because I'm on the same. I just spend so much time like perfecting, color grading, editing, making it look clean, and then like you hit post and it's like, okay, I got 200 views, great, like whatever. And then I'll post a video of me running after I get out of the lake over 4 Instagram stories, and I'll have like 12 replies and just like, dude, that was awesome, that gassed me up for my Friday or whatever. And I don't know, I just think the idea that like you could do it so much quicker and have to really just be upfront and deliver right away. Just as a comedian, I really need to continue to practice that, and I've realized that's a really fun thing, and I love doing that.
I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah.
So side tangent, the comedian thing. Obviously, being a Joe Rogan fan, he has comedians all the time. Probably my favorite comedian of all time is Jerry Seinfeld.
Nice.
Who just released a special, which is hilarious.
Yes. You have watched it?
I've watched.
Okay, it's in the queue.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Classic Jerry. He's a little more. He's always been this way, but he's a little more buttoned up than the typical comedian these days. Like you can tell, he's been around the block, and like he likes, his approach is very methodical, and he's not as loosey goosey as some of the guys, but hilarious nonetheless. When did that start? And like, have you always wanted to be a comedian? And like, I guess, what is the end game there? What does that look like for you?
Yeah. Andrew's laughing because it's just a funny story. I didn't really have any inklings of being a comedian. I just liked to always. I've always just been just a goofy guy who's never taken life very seriously. And then what really pushed me over the edge was my car broke down 3 times in 1 month back in 2018. I had met Theo Vaughn for the first time in August when I went to go see Gary Vee in Rochester. It was a crazy event that one of our buddies threw on, and I met Theo Vaughn there. Got like super hooked onto that just camp of podcast comedians, like so Theo, Joe,
Brendan Shaw,
Brian
Callen, Chris D'Elia.
Yeah, exactly. Andrew knows them all.
best,
Like
yeah.
we all know them all.
Tom
and
Segura.
Tom
The boys.
Segura, they're the boys, right?
Run the gamut.
Exactly. And so I got hooked like back in August, and then 2 months later, I started thinking like, maybe I should try this comedy thing, and then just had a really rough 6 weeks of car problems, and I was like, fuck it, dude. I've been in all these Ubers to work every day. I have a bit. Like, I'm going to do it. So I just pulled the trigger one week and did an open mic at Acme and loved it and haven't gone back since. And I just am so excited to get back up on the stage. And, you know, during these times, that was in 2018 in November, so I'm a little over a year now into it. I just finished my first full joke book front to back, like 190 pages of just writing stuff down and saying it.
One of the coolest things,
cool, man.
Yeah, one of the coolest things, like hearing from the podcast, like this was in 2018, November, and he said it a couple months earlier, like, hey, I want to do comedy, like I want to be
on our Yam House podcast.
Yeah,
that's right.
He's just like, I want to be a comedian, and I was like, dude, that's awesome. Like he finally like vocalized it, and then lo and behold, it took him 5-6 weeks to kind of like craft a little bit of a joke, and then go up on stage and do it, and he did really well, and he hasn't stopped ever since. And just from like a bystander, seeing his hectic day to begin with, he's a engineer by day, and then I mean he does
polar opposite.
Yeah, we're the polar opposite people, and he does. I mean, the list goes on what he does, but he was going to open mics 3 or 4 times a week. We'd get done with podcasting, and then he'd immediately like jump in the car and go to, you know, you name the bar, from Sally's, or not Sally's, Blarney's, to Acme and Sisyphus. He was hitting all of them. He was going to 2 or 3 in a night, and I'm sitting there like, holy smokes! Like, he meant business when he vocalized it in 2018, the end of the year, the whole of 2019, and COVID kind of put a little stoppage on it, but it was he took it seriously, and it only enhanced our brand. Like, it challenged me to become more fluent in my way to articulate my thoughts, because of how he was able to stand up and, you know, tell a joke and get super vulnerable up on stage. Like, I was just watching that. I'm like, all right, now it's my turn to challenge myself. So
do you put any of that out? Just like, I mean, obviously COVID stopped the whole going to comedy clubs, but like, are you just like, I mean, to your advice, throw up the iPhone and just tell jokes?
Yeah, I mean, I put up, it's funny, I probably should put up more videos of like just the dumb shit that I send Andrew and his dad. We have this group chat of where all we do is send each other videos. And so I should probably start putting those up because they're pretty funny. So yeah, I should definitely start doing more of that.
TikTok's become a little bit of that.
Yeah, TikTok has definitely been. So talk about getting your reps in. Andrew and I started TikTok not knowing how the hell to operate this thing, but our reps were a TikTok a day keeps the doctor away. Nice. We're posting a TikTok every single day. I got, for people that keep track, I have I have Saturday through Tuesday, and then Andrew has Wednesday through Friday. So nice. I do 4, Andrew does 3. And literally that's how we've gotten better at TikTok, how we've gotten better at being in front of camera, how we've gotten we have 10x'd our content simply because we're posting a TikTok every day. And you would not imagine how incredible it is to have that Rolodex of content that we can just be like, okay, Friday we don't have anything, but we have 7 TikToks we can choose from, and then you just pick the best one that you like and post it. But yeah, through that whole time, I mean, I need to be posting more of that. I have 2 official bits that are on my Instagram feed that are probably further down now, but yeah, I need to start posting more.
Yeah, it seems like that's the answer, honestly. It's frustrating because it's like, oh, it's that simple, but literally, like Gary Vee, everyone talks about, it's like,
get your reps in, man.
Reps, more volume, more.
And people just want to see you in the moment. Like, they want to see you after you just gassed a 30-minute Peloton.
Yeah.
And like, if you want to put some B-roll in of you waking up and everything to kind of fill the gaps in, but like, dude, that it's as crazy as it sounds, like that's really all you need. And just I would challenge you to just test it. And just see how it does in comparison to the stuff you've already done. Not saying it's bad or anything like that, but just it's a change of pace that people might actually want more of. For sure.
I mean, so when it comes to the production stuff, the stuff that I'm really into is, like, I tested some of the other night where I was one thing I've been doing because of the video thing, I've been like taking a lot of my nights and like learning, just trial by fire, learning shit on the go. And so I was sitting at my computer, it was dark, nighttime. I was like, oh, this could be kind of cool to film. And so I filmed it, just did like a slow, push in, like cinematic thing. And I've always been drawn to like this idea of like a cinematic short. Like, if you can create like a mini film that's like 10 seconds to 3 minutes, I love the concept. And I think what I could see myself going towards is doing more of the high production stuff, being more PSA story message based. Like, for example, like, this is literally off the cuff. Like, tonight I could go home and I could set up a camera, I could be in bed, and I could just have the light from my phone as I'm scrolling Instagram and do a push in, and that's it. And have some sort of message around like the anxiety you get from just scrolling Instagram at night. And like, I want to gravitate towards like more of these like mini commercial cinematic things, like, but then pump out more volume of like the stuff that you're talking about, where it's like, because I get like the times where I go off on my stories, even I get so many messages and people. I mean, that's how I met Ian too. Like every time I talk about mental health, he'd always be like one of the first DMs. And I've also found that LinkedIn is like a gold mine.
That's another decky mecca.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
It's
dude.
like,
Tell me about it.
and I love it because it seems like the floodgates have just opened, because for the longest time LinkedIn was like this stuffy business thing, but I just said screw it and start posting my vulnerability stuff and mental health things, and like people are like really loving that.
Yeah. No, you
Yeah.
should definitely continue to do that.
Yeah.
A lot of written content right now is very big on LinkedIn, so I would suggest just putting your thoughts on page and just writing out what you think, and you'll be surprised the feedback you get. I would also follow and connect with Mark Mitri. He's like he's kind of like a LinkedIn influencer.
Nice.
He's just got a ton of really, really good content out there pertaining to mental health, and is very on the same vibe as you are. So him, and then Quentin Allums, I'll send you both their
Nice.
information. They're just really, really good guys doing very similar stuff. Oh, you just enjoy their content, so I'd highly suggest that. But it's funny you brought up LinkedIn, because Mark Mitri, we had him on our podcast at late 2018, and he was one of the main reasons why I started posting on LinkedIn every single day, and have been doing that since beginning of 2019. Just been gassing content every day, no matter what.
Does it come as natural to you, or are you kind of like reluctant on the content thing, or are you like all in it now?
Reluctant,
Yeah.
not as natural. And it's either I don't make time for it, or I'm like, I feel like it needs to be perfect to put it out. So then I get intimidated to, I do it like once or twice. And then like the third time it's like, all right, I'll take a 3-day break, and then I'll take a week, and then I'll just extend. It's very impressive how he's been able to maintain it. Like, my focus will be, I'm not going to do it for myself. I'll try to do it for Backpocket and put the content and put my focus there. It's almost like an excuse, if you will. So the short answer is I'm reluctant to be as consistent with posting and even being comfortable in front of the camera. It drives me nuts how comfortable that can be. And I'm like, why can't I just sit there and be natural? I always like just something in me just tightens up, and I lose my natural self.
See, it pays to be a loose guy. Dude.
Yeah.
It pays to not have it all tightened up ever.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, reps. That's the answer.
Yeah,
that's like
that's the
hashtag
answer.
reps.
I
is
would
like
also
the-
challenge, though, I mean, Andrew and I are a tandem when it comes to Backpocket. Andrew doesn't necessarily have to be putting himself out there every single day, getting his
For
face
sure.
in front of camera. Like, there's plenty of other ways where Andrew is utilized from the back end of things. When you talk about e-commerce, when you talk about marketing, when you talk about funnels and all that stuff, like, that's his forte. You might as well just keep doing that. Seriously.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
I'll have Declan
One
be the
thing-
face of it.
I'm like all about shifting the paradigms. One thing to think about it a little differently is less about I need to build my personal brand, and more about like, this is a great opportunity for me to plant my flag and create doorways for people to get to know me and interact with me that I might not have met before. And it's a great way. Like, if I, like, for me, when I started speaking about mental health very vocally, just all the time, that's me planting that flag of like, hey, I'm really passionate about this. I have my opinions. Here's my thesis on the industry, blah, blah, blah. That's me opening up the door for strangers who I will have never met before to like get to know me on a personal level, and like actually build like a lot of the relationships that I think I met Alex on Instagram. I mean, I've met a lot of people on Instagram, but like a lot of it is like you become a beacon. So it's like less about gotta get the content and more but just about like it's like using your phone to like be a megaphone for yourself on stuff that you're already doing anyways. And maybe your thing is like digital marketing and funnels and all that, but like maybe start talking about that more, and you'll find that you meet 10, 20 people who are like really into that, and you build a mastermind or something. It's like there's sometimes I think people like, and for me, I got intimidated by in this way in the beginning too, but like people get scared by, I don't want to be a content creator, and I don't want to be like a marketing person, or I don't want to be this big influencer or whatever, so I'm just not going to put out stuff. When in reality, it's just like anyone can do it. Like anyone can make videos, or even not even make videos, but like go on your story and talk about stuff more. And that's just a great way to meet other people.
Phenomenal. No, I respect that. And that's the why behind it that I've just kind of been, it's been clouded, and I've been kind of trying to bridge really find what the reason why to continue to do it, or why I choose not to do it. And I think you put it in good words. You said the production aspect of the videos you've been putting out is your average quality. And I'm curious, during those times when you don't feel like you're doing it as well, or when you're putting some strange pressure on yourself and stress is rising, what do you hold in your back pocket to overcome these situations?
Well, I had a different answer for that, but I'll relate it to, I guess, that.
Take it any way you want.
Let's see.
What was your original answer?
Yeah, I'm curious.
Well, the back pocket thing. So, are you guys familiar with the Strengths Finder? Do you guys have to take that at UST?
I had to, yes.
Do you know yours off the top of your head?
I do not know off the top of my head.
So
he didn't lock into his strengths.
No.
Hence why he's still finding them.
Yeah. Oh man,
I got the book in my room though.
Yeah,
Nice.
we're all ready to launch it. We just haven't.
Anyway, so I'm like super into that stuff. I'm like really into knowing yourself and how to apply your strengths and all that. So like that, for me, like that was my answer to the back pocket thing. It was like my top 5 are futuristic, individualization, which is like, I'm told, empathy on steroids, ideation, strategic, and activator. So basically,
what does ideation mean?
Like, I'm a creator. I come up with ideas. I'm able to like problem solve. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm able to like see the future with empathy and like understand humans on like a deep, like individualization is like, basically I'm able to like meet both of you and like really understand that like I recognize that you two are like uniquely different human beings, and that like no human is the same, and I'm gonna like tailor my interaction with you to like you, and like get to know you on your level and get to know you on your level. And that's why like I'm an introvert, I think. And I hate small talk. I'm like not a small talk guy. So like the Minnesota, like, oh, how's the weather thing? I can't. But so the like individualization thing. So like I'm able to like see the future, very clearly. Like I'm a tried and true like visionary. Like I'm able to like see with detail what things could be like, and like paint that picture in my mind. Like that's how like Activ even came to be in the first place. And then the empathy thing, the ideation thing, problem solver, creative, think on my feet, like that's me. Strategic, I'm all about playing chess, playing the long game. That's why I ask people what their end game is. Like I see life as this lifelong battle, and like you're this general, and you like, it truly is a chessboard. And like, you know, coming on this podcast, like on some level probably is a chess move for different things, or a catalyst for something I might do in 2 months, or like putting out content. It's like that is me getting reps in to then become a good filmmaker and also build my personal brand and then get the mental health thing out there. And then the last thing is activator, which is like taking all of those ideas, the vision, the empathy, and then being like the flint and the spark that can like get things moving. So I'm not necessarily the one that's like the operator that can like once it's moving like optimize and tinker with the machine. That's like not me. I'm like not a details guy as much as I am like a vision creative. But what I am capable of doing is like bringing an idea to people and influencing people to get behind that idea, and surrounding myself with the right people to like get that idea moving, and then giving that idea the passion and the drive that it needs to like go 0 to 1. And so like even with Activ, like that's how like all the stuff got started, and like it was like me, and then it was me and Paul, and then it was me and like the other person, like other people, and then like now it's like with this core like accelerator business that we're building right now, like kid you not, X amount of months ago I had it on a whiteboard like we're going to build this accelerator, and then we're going to build Activ Academy, and then we're going to build what we're calling Activ Factory, which is going to be like taking all the expertise, SEAL Team 6 stuff that we're doing here and applying it to our own products, and like bringing in our future founders into that, and like launching our own brands at scale. But like all that was on a whiteboard at one time. And then it went from the whiteboard to my partners, Daniel and Alex. And then they are truly like the ones in the weeds. Like I'm in the weeds too, but like not as much as they are. And so like I think Backpocket wise, circling back, really comes down to my strengths. Like knowing my strengths, and like I'm very in tune with what I'm good at, and I'm in tune with what I'm not the best at. And I've surrounded myself with people that are better at me than at the things that I'm not good at. And I think, yeah, that self-awareness, even, I mean, take out on the mental health side too, like being very in tune with what's happening up here, all those things. I think maybe it's a blanket statement of like self-awareness.
No, that's what it is at the end of the day with like everything that we try to promote is, you know, the self-awareness thing not only recognizes what you're average at and what you could become great at, but and what keeps you humble and keeps you on that day-to-day grind, but being also aware of what you're great at, what your life experiences are, because those are all things that you hold in your back pocket that are going to make you who you are. And that's the ultimate goal, right? Is to be the best version of yourself.
Amen.
So that's, I mean, you nail it on the head. You have arrived. You've done it. And I think that's, you know, points to why you've been so successful already. And how cool it is that you've been able to recognize all these things about yourself. And, you know, we're all sitting in a room here and we're all in our 20s. I was just thinking about the idea of, like you said, you want to be this great global mogul one day. And I just think the idea that this podcast in 5, 6, 7 years will have weight, obviously, and have influence in those years. But the reason that it will be unique is because we have conversations. We'll have over 1,000 conversations with people dating back 5, 6 years of when they weren't to what you see them, who they are today. And I think that's going to be the coolest thing. And I think you're a great example of that. And we'll all be, anybody who comes on this podcast will be a great example of that, no matter where you end up in life. Because, you know, if you're on this path of self-awareness, if you're on this path of recognizing what's in your back pocket, if you're recognizing what your average qualities are, you're going to be able to look back in 5 years and be like, holy shit, I was a different person. And it's going to be so much fun to go back and listen to a podcast like this that we did today. So
it's going to be killer.
It's going to be freaking nuts.
Yeah.
Marcus, how do you think this? How's this podcast gone for you, man?
I think it's gone really well. I mean, for me, especially the mental health part of this podcast is kind of connected with me on a level that a lot of other podcasts that we've recorded haven't. Something that's like super personal to me, that I wish I would have heard a conversation like this earlier in life. And so that's kind of what it like.
Come on, Marcus, you're 20 years old, man. This is a great time.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, when I was in high school, well, basically for my whole life, my sister was in the hospital a lot. So she had a lot of different medical issues, and we got really close to losing her at one point. And I think the scariest moment of that was in high school. I remember getting a phone call from my grandmother, and she called me like 5 times, and I was in the middle of class, and I was like, why is she calling me? And I left, and I answered, and I was like, what's wrong? She's like, what hospital is your sister at? And I was like, what do you mean? And like, that's how I learned that she was in the hospital again. And so for me, I had a lot of anxiety as a kid, just because like you never knew what was happening at home. You never knew like when you got home, who was going to be there. And so that was really stressful. And I remember with that experience, that was also the same time that we got really close to losing her. And that was a super just different time in my life because I wasn't able to be a regular teenager at that point. You know, I had to step up and do things that not necessarily normal, but that's just, I wouldn't have had to do otherwise. So by the end of the day, my dad was exhausted. My mom wasn't leaving the hospital. So that meant I was cooking the dinners, I was feeding the dogs, I was doing all the chores, all of that fun stuff. And so when you're kind of going through these emotions and you're going through these actions, I think like knowing that you're not alone is really important, and recognizing that you have other emotions like gratitude, right? Like this could be a lot worse. My situation's bad, but there's somebody else out there that like they have it worse, or like you have things to look forward to and you have things that you should be grateful for. I think it's a really important thing that not a lot of people, especially teenagers, see. And so that's why, like, one reason I'm really glad we're having this podcast, just because like we're able to share that, and hopefully somewhere out there there's a kid that's listening that's able to like recognize that, like, or really connect with what we're saying and kind of follow it on their path.
Yeah, I think it would actually be kind of cool to do some sort of, you know, like, you know, Rogan, they do their fight episodes.
Fight companions.
Yeah, the fight companions.
Yeah.
Doing some sort of mental health check-in every now and then would be nice, because I know this has been an amazing conversation, and I think that, like, I just want more reps of this conversation. Like, I want more opportunities to talk about this more, because obviously people will see this, they'll hear it, and it will resonate with some people. But like, this is a conversation, to your point, that like should be on the forefront all the time. Like, everyone should hear this message and our dialogue here. And so doing some sort of like our version of Fight Companion would be unreal.
Yeah,
like,
just getting our mental health reps in.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. Yeah, no, I'll think on that. Yeah.
Marcus, thanks for sharing, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was really cool. I
That's
did not
incredible.
know that. Dang, that's nuts. So, you know, like, I guess going back to that, what have you been doing? So that was when you were in high school, right?
So that would happen for me. The worst part of it happened in my junior year of high school, and then I had skipped my senior year of high school, and I was in like, there was a program where basically you could skip your senior year, go right to like a community college.
Yep.
So that's what I did. So it was the first year of that and my junior year of high school. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Mhm.
And then you were in Maine for a while and then came
Yep.
to the U. So
Yep.
like, how has that transition been in your own life?
Yeah, it's been stressful. Just because you deal with that, and then you go to Maine, and I remember my biggest fear about going to Maine wasn't like, oh, like, I'm going to be in this new place. Like, I lived there. I've been there a few times. Like, it was fine. Meeting all these people or living alone, that wasn't a concern that I had. The concern that I had was, what if something happens and I'm not there for it? And something almost did. And so like, that was really scary. Luckily, I had a lot of friends that helped me get out of that. Also, in that junior year, Logic dropped his album, the Everybody album, which is like the first music album that talked about mental health. And it brought up a lot of conversations like anxiety and like spirituality that as a teenager, it helped me because it was like, it came at the perfect time. So for me, like, things like that helped out. And progressing forward through life, I mean, you just kind of roll with the punches. You kind of, I can only be here. I can't control what happens outside of this room. And there's even things in this room that I can't control, right? So it's just kind of like letting go of that, just kind of acceptance in that, and then kind of doing some self-reflection to that as well. You want to be able to like see what you could have done better in those situations. So when I think back on those days where, you know, my sister was in the hospital, my mom was in the hospital every day with her, what are some things that I could have done better, right? And like, I don't want the weight of like, this is my fault, like, it's not. And so nothing like that, but I mean, just like simple things, like what could I have done to make my life a little bit easier, and stopped worrying as much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I love when people are vulnerable like that. Yeah, putting on my armchair therapist, I think on some level there's probably like, you gotta ask yourself, like, this has helped me too. It's like when you really unpack and like get to the root of things, like on some level there was probably some fear where you gotta ask yourself, like, what would truly happen? Like, say something did happen and you weren't there or whatever. It's like, what happens then? Like, what is there? Like, is there some sort of shame? Is there some, like, are you a horrible person for that? And like, there, on some level, there's probably this like deeply rooted thing where like, yes, it's the fear. Of course, no one wants anything to happen to anyone in their family or anyone in their lives, but things happen. on some level that's like the surface, but like underneath that there's probably like some level of like, okay, if that were to happen, there's this shame or there's this thing that like I couldn't live with. And it's like that's what you want to grapple with. Like that's what you truly want. That's like the beast that's underneath the beast. So I mean I commend you for unpacking that, because it's hard to be a kid and grow up and then also deal with the weight of something like that at the same time. I think that everybody has like kind of their defining moments in life that you go from being a kid to like not being a kid, not by choice. And I'm sure that's shaped your life in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a moment for everybody where that happens. And then going through and having that kind of internal dialogue, like we were talking about earlier, where it's like doing those like meditations. For me, I like to do mine in the shower, right? So like when I'm in the shower, that's like when I'm alone. I like to be able to think in there. I can talk to myself. It doesn't sound crazy. Like you can just have that moment to really think about things that are happening in your life or conversations that might come up and how you would deal with them. So that helped me out a lot. So when I was in Maine, right, and I wasn't sure how things were going to be playing out here, I was able to kind of think about, all right, look, Boston is 3 hours away. It's a 3-hour drive. I could get there tonight. By then I can get on a plane. I can go. Worst case scenario, I can, drive a car from here to there. I'll be there in 20 hours. Like, would it be a shitty drive? Yeah, it would be. But like, we would get there eventually. So having those kind of internal dialogues with yourself, I think are really important. Whether you're in that bad spot or you're not, I think it's just good to like reflect and be like, this is something that could happen. Or, if it's on your mind, especially, like you don't want to like think of weird things that just like could happen. But if it's on your mind, you could really benefit from just thinking things through and just being like, how would I respond? What would I do? And I think that's something that everybody should take away.
Phenomenal.
It's amazing.
Marcus continuing to deliver, dude.
So good.
Always impressed me, Marcus. Marcus was able to help out Backpocket. You've been working with us for maybe 6-7 weeks?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
The
Something
COVID
like that.
era, Marcus has really
Nice.
stepped up.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. So thank you, Marcus, for all that you do.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you guys.
Now I'm starting to think we got to just have you on as a podcast guest. Just
Yeah, I think we're blowing it.
we're blowing
it.
it. The
Yeah.
fact that we haven't had you on is we're doing you a disservice, dude.
Yeah.
So
There we
I
go. I'm
apologize.
available.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
available.
yeah. Next time we send a calendar invite, it'll just be Marcus.
It'll just be me. I'll be like,
Marcus
"What's
X
this?"
back pocket. Yeah, the next Wednesday or whenever that is, we'll put on the calendar
Yeah.
for sure, dude. That's freaking phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, final question. Is that where we're at, or I'm trying to think because you have the challenges. Paul Wheatthins.
I have another
Is there
one.
is there another one?
Yeah. Tyler Quinn,
Tyler Quinn.
co-founder of Alchemy.
Oh,
Sweet.
okay.
He's the boss. He's helped me a ton personally. He's helped Activ. Without him, we probably still would have been trying to figure out shit in the fall. And we worked with him for a couple sessions. So when he's not doing Alchemy, he's like he works with a lot of business owners and their leadership teams. And so we worked with him, and he's the man. He's an absolute beast of a human.
Sweet.
Do you think group fitness is going to survive COVID, or do you think there's going to be a long wall in people wanting to go work out in those settings?
I think it will. Group fitness has this cult following, and I'm in touch. So, without getting into too much details, I actually invested in Alchemy, and so I've been in touch with Mike, the CEO of Alchemy, and I've obviously met Tyler through that process. And the conversations with him, it sounds, I mean, and they're one example, but a lot of the group fitness brands have done a good job of building like the community already.
Mhm.
And so they have that loyal following and people that are going to stick with them. And I go back and forth on, are people having, and maybe it's state by state, but like part of me is like, everyone's so anxious to get back to what I don't think it'll ever go back to normal, quote unquote, whatever the hell that means. But people want their routines again. And I think part of that will be group fitness. And I go back and forth on whether I think it's going to be a slow thing or if it's just going to be like, people are going to be like, fuck it, I'm sick of being alone and get me in a room full of 30 people sweating. Like, I don't know. I go back and forth. From what I hear from them, they're doing well and getting through it. And I think Yeah, I think the brands that come out of this will be the ones that like kind of were able to like take their existing community and then continue to nurture them, add value to them, and then like I think people will have also an element of like maybe feeling bad or like feeling kind of like, hey, let's help these businesses out. They've been great to me. That maybe they got me in shape, or they like I went to my first class at Alter, or my first class at Alchemy, or wherever, and that's changed my life. So I want to give back to them, and I want to show them my love. There could be some of that too.
Support local.
Yeah,
and like you mentioned, the companies that have been able to build their community then virtually, that's not going to go away when they do come back to the physical sense.
For sure.
Where the virtual wasn't there, then they built it, and then they're going back to what they were doing. You're only going to be able to do more with what you've built virtually.
Definitely.
So we talk about this all the time. The people in like the companies in 2008 with the financial crisis, like those companies are flourishing right now. Or will we see what they did and do it ourselves right now? And that's what you see a lot of growth during these stressful times.
It's weird. It's like you brought up a good point though of like how do you continue to provide value to the community? And I think your Activ page tweeted out like a headline from Mark Cuban, like how brands treat their people during this time is going to be a telltale for the next 5 to 10 years. I think you hit it right on the head because the people that are sticking around with you now are going to stick with you pretty much through anything. And the way you evolve with that community of people is going to be how you kind of accelerate the rest of whatever's going to come back. You know, I don't really see us all being in a 30-person group fitness thing inside in the near future, unless there is something that like an antibody or a vaccination or something. I think that's really going to be the
open the windows, maybe
open the windows. You know, let some air in. That's how I would approach it. But you know, that's why I don't run a fitness company. You know, that's the problem.
Yeah, but then you got brands like Peloton and. You know,
they're killing it because because they're able to create the community atmosphere by not having to actually be there. And, you know, that's why Zoom's killing it. That's why Peloton's murdering. That's why, you know, all these different companies who have already had that kind of in their back pocket per se, that they're able to just utilize that and put more effort and time into it and build something. So I don't know. Andrew and I were trying to figure it out from our end of like, you know, we took a leap this year by, you know, learning how to live stream. So right now, this is the first time, this year is the first time that we've able to successfully live stream our stuff right now on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. We were on YouTube, and then this will all go out later on the podcast, but we've actually learned how to live stream, and now we're trying to level up a little bit more, and we're starting to realize like other companies need to level up with their live streams and stuff. And I'm thinking for like an Alchemy or an Alter or any of these fitness brands that have that live stream category is going to be a consistent stream no matter what going forward. Like how can we help them just like do a more professional live stream? Like we can bring the cameras we have right now into their studio with the 7 or 8 people that are allowed to show up for their classes, and we can live stream that, make it look really good, and then log that for them to have, and then either sell or give to the people that can't be there or don't feel comfortable being there. I just think there's like a whole nother industry now.
It's the future of cable TV, in my opinion. Like, and I was on this like a couple years ago even. I'm like I spend time on Instagram, LinkedIn now, and YouTube. Like YouTube, I love like YouTube shows and YouTube personalities. Like I don't ever watch TV. I like got rid of my TV, and I just think like there's a huge kind of space for anyone like to get on and talk about something, or like I love, and this is something where like I'll bend your guys' ear afterwards about like the live streaming thing, because I mean we're talking to the guy that's like not the gear. Like clearly it's like my average quality we talked about, but like that's something I want to look into because you know, setting up like a set and like doing like a consistent show, like I've thought about that all the time, and like having people on, and like I am building this kind of like side brand called Lone Wolf now, which is like basically like my personality in like a symbol. So it's like I feel like a lone wolf is like my spirit animal. Yeah, in a lot of ways. Just being like a critical thinker and being a visionary.
It's on your shin?
And, like it's on my shin, yeah. Which was so painful.
I bet.
But so I'm building that brand kind of as like a side, which will probably like I'm sure I'll have like Lone Wolf ventures at some point where it's just like that's gonna house a lot of my initiatives that I'll do in life. And having like Lone Wolf TV where I like interview people like yourselves. I bring on people who are like kind of lone wolves and are kind of doing and carving their own path and going against the grain. That's something I've thought about for a long time. But to do it like via live stream, I really love that concept because it is like the new inclusive cable TV thing. Like if our parents used to watch CNN and Fox News and all that, like we're now going to see these like social accounts and like YouTube accounts and personalities just do live streams. And I mean, Rogan already gets more viewers than CNN does anyways, just from his podcast.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what we do then. Maybe we just, with that mental health Mondays or whatever we were going for, like just getting the reps in, maybe we just turn that into a live stream show.
Yeah.
And then you can just have people call in, submit questions.
Yeah.
Just try and be as inclusive as possible. And then that's where you can kind of create the riff of like addressing the mental health topics that people want to hear about. Maybe that's all you need.
Too, yeah.
You can do however we want to go about it. Maybe that's the way we go.
Yeah.
I don't know, because Andrew and I are trying to get reps on this live stream stuff. Like I'm trying to sell that laptop so I can get a more juiced up one so that we can stream 1080. Right now we're 720. You know, that's
gotta start.
Yeah, you gotta start somewhere, right?
Gotta start somewhere. We want that 4K live.
Yeah,
these things shooting 4K.
These things shooting 4K. You know, gotta take advantage. But
were any of you guys gear guys before this?
I watch Casey Neistat. That's as much gear as I know.
Yeah, I mean, gear. I still am figuring out. Like, we finally got our settings on the DSLR figured out, and the only reason we figured that out is because we figured out if you just switch it to auto and hit record, it does a lot better for you. Seriously.
So yeah, we're not gear guys.
We're not gear guys, but we buy the gear and then run and gun it until we figure it out, and then what we found is, the more reps you get in, that just kind of unlocks and builds an awareness level to realize how you can progress. You either can choose to progress or not, but you have to taste and try first to at least get to that point.
Yeah, after like the first round of reps, you start to like you go from like I'm getting bodied to like, okay, this is tough. Now I know what not to do, or if I try this or tweak this, you get into like testing mode.
Yeah.
And I think that's a little bit where I'm at now with the video stuff, where before it was like, man, I'm just getting wrecked. But
you learn how to like avoid getting bodied by certain things, and then you get bodied by something totally different.
You're not sprinting down the left side of the wall, like expecting to get to the net as quick as possible. You got your eyes up and you're gliding, realizing, hey, I can actually pass the puck a little.
Yeah.
Well, looking for a one-timer opportunity.
Yeah. Someone just backdoored the goalie.
Yeah. So we can do sports references all day if we need to.
We got them all.
But no, that's basically where we're at. Like, we see a huge opportunity. We just good news, we'll be able to live stream PGA on Friday. See Best Buy,
the capture cards,
capture card. Yeah, so we just
we're
bought
gonna do Twitch as well.
Yeah,
Twitch.
My brother and I just live streamed on Twitch for the first time on Saturday, and it was just like a blast. So we're gonna just continue to do that, and like, because I saw Barstool live streaming a video game that was created 7 years ago, NCAA 14, and last night or 2 nights ago when Big Cat was streaming his game in Dynasty was the #1 stream on Twitch.
That's
and he
insane.
started like 4 or 5 weeks ago. Yeah.
It's crazy.
What do you guys know about esports? I know nothing, but that's all I hear.
Marcus
from
knows
Gary.
way more about esports than I'll ever answer, so I'll digress.
Give me the quick rundown.
So I'm not super into esports. My old roommate in college was like really into it. So it's kind of changed depending on which games you're playing, and it kind of adapts to depending on the game. But what kind of things do you want to know?
What, like, let's take for example when they have these big like events, what is even happening? Like, are people like, they're like teams that are playing each other in COD, or like, is it, how does this work?
Yeah, so you just basically get they've kind of changed the Call of Duty scene, and so I just actually had a podcast with Austin Yoakum on my podcast, the Checkpoint Podcast, coming soon, about this particular thing. But the esports as a whole with Call of Duty has kind of been changing, so it's kind of become more regulated. So now each state has their own team. So Minnesota has the Minnesota Rocker. Atlanta or Georgia has the Atlanta FaZe, which used to be the FaZe Clan. They now have a team. Optic used to
really?
be, yeah. So Optic used to be based out of Chicago. They are now called the Chicago Huntsmen, and Optic has moved to Los Angeles. So Los Angeles is the Los Angeles Optic, and then there's also the LA Gorillas. So there's a lot of different teams. Not every state has a team. Very similar to like how the NFL doesn't have a team for every state, but it kind of works like that. So they get, I think this year it's 5 people, so it's 5v5, and then you obviously have different divisions, and of course you have like your top tier players and people that like you really love to watch on streams. That's where it becomes really interesting, is because like with these players, you watch them on stream and then you watch them compete, and so like you get really invested into like a specific player versus being invested into like a specific team. So that's where it's a little bit different.
And so is the model basically like, okay, get enough eyeballs, do you get enough ad revenue thing?
That's what it sounds
like.
Look
at it like it's a sporting event.
Yeah.
It's just, but it's video games. And like the
and
biggest
attendance records are fucking killing it too. Like people are going to see it live.
Yeah, like the Rocker team, I don't know if they sold out the Armory, but they're pretty damn close.
That, yeah.
And Gary Vee is like I don't know what his role is with the Rocker team. He's a part investor or something. God, that just reminded me, we have a guy on the Rocker team. Rocker or Roker?
I think it's Rocker.
Rocker. Okay.
I think that's how they pronounce it.
Yeah, there's a guy from that team that wants to come on the podcast. So
get him on.
Yeah,
we'd love to
need to absolutely do that.
Right.
Yeah, it's a crazy industry, and it's like, it's exciting though. I love that stuff. It's like, I love being on the cusp of disruptive things. And even like, not even in like the video game side, but I was listening to a podcast the other day, and there was this like big hedge fund investor guy, and he has like, they put on like I can't remember what they're called, but they're basically like trading expos. So like they'll have like day traders go against each other, and they're now going to have their first event that's like these esports events where they're trading, they're giving them X amount of money, and they are day trading against each other.
Yeah.
And so we're starting to see these.
Portnoy's going to be all over that.
Yeah. Oh,
Davey Day Trader. God damn it. That's the thing. Like Barstool's already at the head of both that and esports.
But that'd be so entertaining.
Yeah. I would watch that all day. Like, and so I think it's really exciting, and who knows what's going to happen with sport. I mean, I don't know. Was it the NBA that was like, we're not going to start until January?
The NBA did something really interesting where they started with this season. Some teams are just playing against each other on 2K. So I know the Pelicans were doing that at one point, and it's just funny because like every once in a while you just get a notification that like the New Orleans Pelicans are going live on NBA 2K.
What a world we live in.
Yeah. But to your point, like how entertaining would it be to watch like day traders go against each other to the same industry or to the same light of like Barstool doing live streams of them playing ping pong against each other.
Yeah.
And it's just like two people that going against each other and then talking shit on the podcast after or whatever. The entertainment will always be there. It's not that lot like TV. We look at this old fashioned thing. No one's tuning into TV. It's like, well, no, people are still tuning into live events.
Yeah.
People will show up for Travis Scott in Fortnite and have a virtual concert. Like, there are so many different things that have already happened in these last 6 to 8 weeks that are just like so eye-opening to the fact that like live streaming is everybody's game now. Find your niche and find your way to like fit the mold.
I think Fortnite's become a really interesting game for like the live streaming platform as like a whole, because it went from just being like a battle royale game that like transformed the genre into now a platform. So they just came out with a new mode. It's called like party mode or something. But basically they got rid of all the guns and they got rid of any way that you can kill somebody else. And so now they just put on concerts, and it's now a space where you can hang out with your friends with your skins. And they just had one, or it's coming up. It's either already happened or coming very soon, where they're having, I think it's
Steve
Marshmello.
Aoki?
No.
Stevie Aoki's supposed to be on.
Is
I
he?
read. Yeah.
Well, I have no idea.
Dude, let the
I
man
had no
finish.
idea.
What were you about to say?
I think they have Marshmallow or Dead Mouse coming on. And so, like, they just have, like, a bunch of people. So now, like, you can play the Battle Royale, which is what, like, it started as.
Yeah.
Or you can go on and just hang out with your friends in this virtual concert-like thing. And you can just experience those, like, Travis Scott concerts all
That's
the time.
crazy. I mean, you look at... I wonder... So if you're an exec, say at Spotify, are you looking at that and you're like, shit, we had the music thing, we have the streaming thing, we get the users every month. Why didn't we look into some sort of concert thing? Like, why didn't we look into this?
Well, I wouldn't say why. It's just when.
Yeah.
That's. I think that's the biggest difference between which companies survive and which ones don't. Some are like, why don't we do this? How are we gonna recover? How are we gonna move and transition? It's like, if I'm Spotify, I'm like, okay, we already do promotions of normal concerts.
Yeah.
Why not just partner with the artists and then just promote the virtual ones and then hop on the Fortnite bandwagon? To your same point, like, I can't wait for like, what if you were able to like put on VR goggles and then go to that fucking concert? How sick would that be if you would be like, I'm gonna hop into Fortnite, you know, and then smoke a bowl and put your fucking VR set on and go to the concert?
I mean,
like,
you
dude,
gotta,
are you serious? Like, I'm all over that.
You got to think that that's where it's going. Like, where
100%.
you're gonna be able to put on the goggles. Okay, I'm at the concert.
It's here. It's here. That's something you can probably do tomorrow.
Yeah.
You technically can do it today, but it's just like not advanced enough. So they did it with like an NFL game one time. So I have the PlayStation VR, and then I also have the Oculus Go. And so with those two, with the NFL, they had a thing where you could like stand on the sidelines, and you were able to stand on the sidelines while the game was playing. But it was at like a really low resolution, so it wasn't like optimal. And then like it's also just uncomfortable to have this like big bulky headset on you for like an entire NFL game. And of course, like with the commercial breaks, there's nothing happening. Just like they're either on the sidelines or they're getting ready for their next play. So it's just really boring to watch in that kind of fashion.
I'd have a blast.
Yeah, I think it depends on like who you are. But yeah, so like if you're really into it, it'd be dope. But like they still have a long ways to go because they got to increase that resolution. They got to like increase a way that you can kind of interact a little bit better as a fan. Because like right now, if you go to a football game, you can get like the hot dogs, you can get your like sports apparel, like you can do whatever you want. Whereas like if you're just there in VR, you're just kind of like there. It's like question mark, like you're kind of there but you're kind of not, so it's got a long way to go. But yeah, you can kind of do that today.
Right.
Do you guys watch Westworld?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so get this. Imagine you're HBO and you're like, hey guys, so for next season, not only is it going to be badass, but you're going to be able to actually be in each episode. So like you're going to put on the whatever the thing is, goggles or whatever the tech is, and you can pick a character to follow the whole show. So you're in the show, you're in the episode, you're experiencing all the stuff that they're experiencing. To me, that's where it's headed.
Yeah,
it's got to be where it's
well,
headed.
imagine
It's gotta be where it's
dude,
headed.
but imagine just like a show that's just designed for you putting on the glasses and being this person.
You're a character,
and then you don't know what's happening, and it's a story and a narrative written around this whole experience. Like that, to me, like again, the possibilities are endless, and I'm just getting super excited about the opportunity to do
it's like
something
if you're an executive producer of a show or a writer, not only are you going to be writing for the show, but now you're going to see like these writers become like developers, if you will, where it's like, here's a blank canvas, we have the narrative like kind of built out a little bit, but you can be the character, tune in or click on this episode, you can be the character, and you don't know necessarily what's going to happen, but we wrote this code or the script for you, for someone to step in and be the character. I feel like, I mean, talk about, that'd be insane. That has to be where it's headed. I don't know if you're the entertainment industry, like, and all this stuff is happening. It's like, what do you? Because like on the esports side, it's happening. But like if you're Netflix, if you're HBO, if you're Disney Plus, all these platforms, or just Apple too. I mean, Apple as a company, it's like, yeah, there's probably people in rooms like this, being like, hey, let's put people in episodes. How do we do that? And how do we make it? Because like what you described are just purely UX fumble, like, you know, big chunky glasses, and you know, you feel like it just, there's nothing on commercial, but that's just a speed bump in like the UX thing. They're gonna solve that, And so it's like ignoring that, man, the future is going to be crazy.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun as shit.
Yeah.
Is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, being able to like watch an NFL game or an NBA game from just like courtside now
Yeah.
instead. I just want to. I would want to see how like Fortnite makes it sound really fun. Like the party mode sounds awesome because I can just hop in a lobby with no point really, and then like go through this experience like it's fucking Club Penguin, but it's Fortnite.
I was
now.
thinking the same thing.
Like, but how could you do that with like the VR space? Like, obviously, my mental blockade stops me at us forced going down into our room or into our living room, and then like putting all putting on fucking goggles, and then just now we're all in this world together. like if HBO comes out with that show tomorrow and and it releases on Sunday night, and we all really like this show and we all want to show up together, like typically right now we'd all show up, we'd all make some food and then watch the game, or we'd watch the episode. But like, how does that work now with the goggles, or is there something different or better? Maybe like the room that we're in is the virtual world and it's just designed and we're all just kind of sitting there watching it unfold. I don't know.
I think the thing that's going to be really interesting to watch as it progresses into the future is AR. So Microsoft has the HoloLens,
the HoloLens.
I like the iPhone, and Apple has been working really hard on their AR technology. So, so I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens there. A few years ago at E3, Microsoft unveiled a Minecraft kind of demo in the HoloLens. So basically it's augmented reality. This guy just walked over to a table, and then all of a sudden there was a Minecraft world. He was able to like pick stuff up and move it and stuff, as if like you're playing Minecraft, but there's just nothing there. So I think that'll be interesting because you can do augmented reality in glasses. And so it's small. They're not the big heavy goggles. It's just glasses. So if you have that and you're able to integrate the entire like commercialized concerts or shows or whatever into your glasses, that's really, that's widely accessible for a lot of people.
Yeah, and that is like real world implications too. Like, one of the ideas that I had long term on the mental health side is like building some sort of center or like campus that has those capabilities and could start as like a giant warehouse, but a place for like exposure therapy and like a place for people to face their fears. So a common one, say public speaking. It's not really a fear of mine, but for the average person, it's like a huge, like terrifying thing. Imagine if this room, you step into it, and I'm going to be like, okay, in 1 minute, you're going to go from this room to being on stage in front of 18,000 people. And we're going to practice this. We're going to get our reps in. And then I press a button, and then you're there, and then you can practice your speech in front of 18,000 people. And then, or fill in the blank, whatever your phobia is or whatever your fear is.
Yeah.
Just a way for you to, like, in a harmless environment, be exposed to the thing. I see that being a huge, huge opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, just like I'm always fascinated with like as the technology grows, the experience will become more real. Because it's just hard for me to visualize how this would physically feel real, because like I've used those HoloLens for a couple of years now, not to brag, but like it's very, like you said, like the resolution's kind of low, like things are, it's just still very in the early stages. So if you're telling me like you could actually feel like you step into a auditorium at 18,000 people and genuinely feel like you're actually in front of these people, like, yeah, absolutely. The idea checks out.
Did you listen to the Elon Musk?
I was just about to say.
Yeah.
And then we got a thing like Neuralink.
Yeah, Neuralink.
Going to be incorporated within the next 5 years, Elon. 5 to 10 years, saying. I'm like,
Yeah, he was.
come on.
What did he say? He was like.
How about the long pause, though? He puts you in suspense.
I love it.
5 to 10 years. And I'm like, oh my.
He is such an interesting guy because you can tell, and I can't imagine being Joe trying to interact and like navigate that conversation. The first time was rough. This latest episode was way better than the first one they did, but he is so intelligent that you can tell just the way he talks that he solved like a trillion problems before he just answered your question.
Good question, yeah.
And like the way that he says things, like you ask him how do you solve traffic? He'll say with such matter-of-factness, oh, we just build tunnels. And just straight face. He just built tunnels under Los Angeles. And he, like, you don't know if he's joking or not, but he's like, he's serious.
Mhm.
And he actually, and that's why, like, when he says we're going to get to Mars, I'm confident that we'll get there.
That we'll come, we'll
fucking
get
Elon
there.
Musk. Like,
Yeah.
it's...
What they were saying, or Joe was talking to Brendan Schaub, the podcast after, and he was just talking about how when Elon was walking Joe through something, it was like he had a color painting, and Elon was trying to explain, or the daughter was trying to like articulate what this was, and he was like, "Is this the father? No, that's the brother."
Mhm.
And it was just like the simplest things Elon had to try to figure out how to articulate to Joe. It was, oh my god, it's so fun listening to that banter. That's good.
It's
impressive.
It is very impressive. I don't know how Elon. It's so, and then of course Elon 2 days ago just released all of Tesla back to work, and
Mm-hmm.
again we talk about going all the way back to the idea of being a founder and stepping up in that regard, like extremely controversial,
Mhm.
right? Like clearly there's a lot of people out there that are like on the fuck Elon train, and then there's also a lot of people publicly and behind closed doors like, fuck yeah,
Mhm.
Elon, thank you.
I mean, there was literally a politician in California that said, fuck Elon Musk on Twitter.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, the guy's polarizing, but you can't argue that he's an extremely hard worker. And the dude is, like, the people that rag on him, it's like, okay, first of all, the guy's solving bigger problems than you'll ever solve. So,
Well, we
Give
hope
him
that they
credit.
also solve problems as well.
Let's solve. But yeah, I mean, I've always been fascinated with the guy. I think he's a visionary. I think and you can hear it. I mean, even in that episode, he was like, "I'm giving away all my possessions because I want to solve shit. I don't want to spend time designing a house. I want to get to Mars." And I'm like, "Oh, shit!"
Right? Isn't
Like
that
makes you
so-
look at your like, "Shit, what am I doing?"
Yeah. Well, it was so matter of fact again.
Yeah.
It was so just like, well, Joe's like, well, why are you selling your house and all your good needs? And he goes, well, those things aren't helping me get to Mars. It was
It's
just
like,
like the same
oh.
thing of like
Yeah.
Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
You see it in this documentary series on ESPN every Sunday. It's like, well, that's not gonna help me win. So why would
Mhm.
I do it? And it's so like ins and outs, and you're like, I can think like that.
Yeah.
I can. If I wish it was said to me beforehand or whatever, but like, that's literally how they think,
Mm-hmm.
and they're great because of it, because they just don't stop thinking that way. So I don't know. That's why I love these types of conversations, because it's just like a really good time to reflect and, but at the same time, be super present. And like, I don't know, I just get super charged up by having these kind of just things that just kind of come out of thin air, and you
Mhm.
just freaking talk to them for hours, man.
Mark my words, I will be on that spacecraft to Mars.
Yes.
I will be on that spacecraft. I want to be. But
Take me to the moon. I'll film some content there. I'll go on that.
Well, it's crazy Alex French story. So Alex from Busy, we were in California pre-COVID. So there's an event, largest natural food expo in the world, or one of them, called Expo West, and they go to it every year. And they were going out there, and then it got canceled like literally the day before. And my parents actually rent a house out there kind of every spring, so they just so happened to like be able to stay with them for a couple of days. And then I went out there. So we overlapped, and Alex and I always have these like crazy, like futuristic conversations. And I think he was talking about how, like, imagine being in the business of the person who owns the real estate in space that is like the docking system, like where it's like you fly up there commercially, picture like a airport or like some sort of port for the people that are going to go to like Mars or wherever, and you own that real estate. So everyone comes by and like pays you for fuel, they pay you for food and supplies and all that, and like that real estate, like the space station, the future of that.
Yeah.
It's like we were having that conversation, and I was like, and he also talks about like what are they called, V-ups, or like those vehicles that are going to be like flying vehicles, and like
Mhm.
how everyone's going to have one of those.
Dude.
Yeah.
sounds like when
Crazy
you have
shit.
Alex back on the podcast.
Yeah, all
dude.
four of
You
you.
actually should
Yeah.
have him back. And Then we were talking about how like no one's gonna live in a city anymore. Like what's gonna happen to all these buildings? Like all these skyscrapers are full of offices. If like Twitter just announced they can let the people are gonna work home forever. Which great. But it's like, okay, what does that say about all the real estate? And I'm sure there's reasons for going to an office, and there's a lot of offices that are just complete waste of space. But a lot of the commercial real estate, it's like, what's going to happen to that? And then why are people going to want to live in cities if like pandemics are going to come? Like for me, one of my life goals, and it has been for a while, but it's always been on the bottom of the list, is to like have a property, say Wyoming or some crazy place in the West, where you got land, it's solar paneled, self-sustaining, you got a garden, you can hunt for your food, don't need anybody.
Just completely off grid.
Completely off the grid. And since COVID, that like came to the top of my list. So now I'm like, because I live in the North Loop, and I'm like, for the longest time, I'm like, oh, I'm going to be a loft guy. I'm going to have lofts. I want to have a place in New York or Chicago. But now I'm like, fuck that. I'm like, give me a place in Wyoming and I don't want to go to a grocery store. I want to grow my own food, and I want to hunt, and yeah, see ya.
And listen to Joe Rogan.
Yeah, and listen to Joe Rogan. Literally, give me my Joe Rogan on stream. Give me my elk meat.
Elk meat, baby.
Oh, dude. What about like VRing a podcast? So like if you set up, like if Marcus has the camera that people can just tune into, and you can just get the Jamie perspective of the live
insane.
Rogan podcast. It's really not that much different from just like watching the normal thing, but I mean, I don't know, just enhancing that experience. I agree. I think that would be sick to just go completely off grid. I worked for a startup company my senior year of college, and it was a solar panel and wind turbine company, and we were working on helping Africa become more sustainable through their boom of cellular device usage and creating more LTE 5G towers out there. And the way they power those towers is through diesel engines, and they just run through gas, and it's like just terrible for the environment and not very efficient. So the solution was like, you guys have acreages of land and tons of sun and wind, so we might as well build these grids to put all these cell towers up to connect to your place. And it's, I have no idea how they're doing now. I wish I knew. The concept's phenomenal. Business not that great. But the idea, it just opened my eyes to the idea that like we could be off grid, everybody, very easily. And it's not like we're taking all the millions of people in New York off grid at once. It's no, you start with this a suburb, and you have a dedicated solar panel and wind harnessing place that, or a village or a neighborhood that powers that grid, and then you just microgrid every single one of those. And the biggest problem right now is just the battery storage. We can't physically store the energy efficiently enough to give the power to everybody. So that's why everyone does their own solar panels and has that charge their Tesla for now. So there is a barrier there, but the idea of going completely off grid by yourself right now is extremely doable. And you actually, there's like significant tax breaks. There's all, I mean, like you could really look into this and probably do it tomorrow if you really wanted to, if you had a chunk of change that you wanted to do.
The barrier to entry for me would be the self-sustaining food thing. So I'm not like a hunter, but when you talk about getting reps in, and you talk about
Blue Apron can help you out though.
Yeah, but like I want to like, Rogan talks about the elk thing, and just the psychology of like the hunting of the elk, of like hunting of an animal that's like athletically through evolution become this like super athletic animal, and like the difference between like eating that meat versus like a sedentary like cow.
Yeah.
And like you have it for like 6 months or whatever, but like if I'm gonna do it, like I'm gonna do it, and like I want to go off the grid, hunt for my meat, and build like a massive ass garden, and never need to go to any sort of supply chain
and work
food
from home.
thing. Yeah, and work from home virtually. Yeah. Did you guys so Jack Dorsey was on the AI podcast. That's another one. I think what's his name?
Eric.
Lex Friedman.
Okay.
Yeah, so he has the AI podcast. And Jack Dorsey's a guy that like I've been looking into more and more, because
That's the founder of Twitter, right?
Founder of Twitter, Square, and a bunch of other things.
Cash App.
Cash App. And the motherfucking Cash App. But so he was on the AI podcast and they were talking about like cryptocurrency and the future of currency and all that. That's highly recommend that episode because he was saying how even in like Africa, he has a few founders that he works with in Africa, and one of them is like the founder of like the Uber and Lyft of I think West Africa. They were saying how their biggest hurdle is like payment processing and like dealing with different currencies and like being able to pay the drivers and then also have the riders pay the drivers, and it's just like a mess.
Yeah.
But he's like, imagine if there was a native currency to the internet, and that would completely eliminate any sort of red tape or bureaucracy of like introducing new concepts to different countries. And yeah, the crypto thing, that's a whole other beast for a different conversation. That's like
A beast that I don't have the knowledge to even participate in.
Yeah.
By the way, when you had posted that Sam Harris, Andrew Yang podcast, that one was sick. Did you did you just listen to the, like, do you pay for Sam Harris's service?
Yeah, because so back when I started meditating, I paid for his like premium waking up app stuff.
Yeah. So you get the podcast with that.
Do you?
I don't know. I'm asking.
I don't think you. I should look into that. Maybe I double paid. Anyways, like I really grew to love Sam and have now. I just feel like this bond with him because he's done all my guided meditations. So I just feel like I get to know the guy. And then I got into his podcast, and then he like offered like subscriber type content, more than just his free stuff. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna support this guy. I think he's a good voice in the community. So got into that, and so that's why.
Yeah, so I listened to that podcast, but it only gave me 30 minutes because.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I'm kind of sad that I didn't get to listen to the whole thing. But Andrew Yang, another great example of like one of those moguls who's just always thinking and, always kind of on the leading edge. And anyways, he did a podcast with Yuval Noah Harari that I'm like 30 minutes into. I would highly suggest listening to that one.
Is that the Sapiens guy?
Yeah, Sapiens guy. And bro, the way he breaks down the implications on a macro sense of like what the coronavirus has done and exposed is like scary from the standpoint of being an American, but at the same time like very awesome, like something that we all kind of need to hear.
Yeah, I think the reason why I like him so much.
Have you read any of those
what
books?
I posted? I started reading not Sapiens, but the one that was like talking about the future.
Homo Deus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, crazy stuff. But so with Yang and with any politician, like as we looked at 2020, with like any politician, what I'm looking for a forward-thinking person.
Yeah.
A person who's like well-educated, empathetic, understands human behavior, understands what humans are truly going through, and is thinking not just about like today, but like how do we set things up for the next 50 to 100 years. And so with Yang, it was like people came on and like didn't take him seriously, and like people still don't, but I'm looking at some, and like when you hear him break down his reasoning for like some of his solutions, it's just like, yeah, it makes sense.
It's very good at explaining himself. And like he was pretty honest and upfront about his campaign and how he said like, look, I'm not going to focus on the fact that I didn't win or anything. I'm going to focus on the fact that I took universal basic income from a 22% support in Iowa to 65 or 66%. Like he was just super stoked about that. And then to time it all up with us
getting
as a government,
money.
us as
irony.
Everybody actually participating in UBI now.
Yeah.
He was like, what better opportunity I have than to like go on this campaign, get myself out there, fail because it's just that I'm so not so far ahead of the game, but he's just not amongst all the current vibes yet, or people aren't with him yet, really. But like he won in so many other ways outside of a presidential campaign, and he got to see what it's like to run for president, and that's what was so great hearing is like when Sam would ask about like Biden or Klobuchar or Elizabeth Warren, like he was like, yeah, I met these people for the first time, and I actually got to sit down with Joe. I actually got to sit down with these different politicians and like hear them out and actually have a conversation with them, and just like hearing his perspective on these people who we all look at as like these just old people who don't get it, right? But he was able to just like formalize and kind of bring it all around. It was interesting.
Yeah, I think he really set himself up for success for the future. I think whether it's, I mean, he launched his nonprofit, but then whether it's potential VP or I definitely think he'll run again. I think, I mean, even he kind of had the Trump thing going on in terms of branding with like the Yang Gang, like hashtag Yang Gang, like that alone is like, when I saw that, I was like, okay, this guy gets it. He understands social media. He understands human behavior. He's an entrepreneur. I mean, he just gets it. And a lot of times, like the arguments for and against, just I struggle to talk about politics a lot with people because it's so tribal now.
Yeah.
And it's so like my team, your team. When like I never was like that. I was always just like, who's got good ideas? Give me the good ideas. Let's criticize ideas and let's like talk about ideas and not like what color is that person wearing.
Yeah.
Fucking brutal.
Yeah.
What color ties you wearing
Yeah,
today at the
it's
event?
the worst.
Oh my god.
It's the worst.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
don't even get me started on the
Yeah. God bless. Well,
Yeah.
Marcus, how long did we make it this podcast?
This podcast has been 2 hours and 41 minutes.
Hey,
Dude, hell yeah.
Hey.
Fuck yeah. Hell of a
good.
podcast.
That's a healthy conversation.
good.
That's a real, that's a
Yeah.
hearty, I would say that's about half an elk.
Half an elk.
Half,
yeah.
half an elk.
Yeah.
Did you listen to the Alex Jones episode from way back? It was like 4 hours and something.
Yeah, ridiculous.
When,
That guy.
what's his name was with him?
Bravo.
Yeah,
Eddie
Eddie
Bravo,
Bravo.
just egging him on the
Egging
whole
him
time.
on,
yeah.
poking the bear. That's glorious.
Oh,
But
God.
Antonio, this brings us to our final question. What did you learn today from the moment you woke up to when we're having this conversation?
I mean, I learned that what you guys have here right now is like truly something. Like, I really can't think of anyone in Minneapolis that is doing this at this level, but in a way that's like, I mean, we're literally in your attic on a couch. Like, this is like really important that this is happening, and I think the city needs it. We're seeing it at scale with the Rogans and the Sam Harrises and all them. But like, to start from where you guys started and to be where you are now, and then to see where you're headed, even as we talk about live streaming and stuff, I think my takeaway is like, you struck a chord in the city. I'm super excited. Really honored that Sophie and Alex, volunteered me to be on this thing, but also that you guys had me on, and that this conversation, we didn't even look at the clock. I didn't even look at my watch like once, and like I'm thankful, and I'm really excited for what you guys are building here, and just to see and be a part of it. And it's still in my eyes, still like kind of the incubation period. Like, you guys have been at it for a while, but like knowing where it's gonna be, it's like, this is still the come up, and I'm honored to kind of be a part of that process.
Dude. Fucking
Fuck
hair standing up on my arms.
Yeah.
And I'm stoked to be, playing in the Twin Cities sandbox
Yeah.
with people like yourself. Like, because there's so many great people here.
Yeah.
And it's so cool we have each other. We want to help each other. And that's the best part.
Yeah. This is first time we've ever met. So,
Yeah,
it
was a great
think,
first meeting.
Yeah, I think we crush it.
Yeah.
I think, that the best part is it's just going to keep going, man.
Yeah.
We got other plans. We got other things to strike more chords with people in the Twin Cities. And, Andrew and I obviously love compliments and that validation of like, we're doing something special here. And, dude, thanks for giving us the gas.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Hell of a podcast, though.
Hell of a
Freaking
podcast.
great work.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming on, brother.
Yeah, man.
That's a wrap. Killer.
That was legit. Oh, honestly, part of me was like, man, do we hit the 3 hour